Alright, so everyone buckle up, because this is probably going to be a very, very long video. Probably close to like 2 hours or something like that, if I had to bet. Maybe like an hour, whatever. Today we're doing Pokemon. Again, we're doing a Pokemon tier list. I recently did a video on the channel that discusses my issues with Legends ZA, and I've done previous videos on my channel that discuss my issues with the current state of the Pokemon franchise. All the way back to like Pokemon Day of I think 2023? Something like that. I don't know. I don't think I had a chance to really talk about Scarlet and Violet like I wanted to, but that's what this video is for. So this is more or less just going to be me kind of sharing all of my takes and opinions on the different generations. If you ever wanted to know how I feel about like each individual game in the franchise, that is what this video is for. It's just kind of like a collection of my thoughts and opinions on each generation. And of course, to make it more YouTube friendly, we're going to rank them in the tier list format from S to F tier. Want to just go off and say that like very few of these games are going to be in the F tier. Pokemon games are generally pretty good, even if like the standard that I hold them to, you may not hold them to that high of a standard. There really are, at least for quite some time, there was nothing quite like Pokemon games. So you were getting an experience that I don't think you can get anywhere else, and I think that elevates their placement, right? But this list is, or like this tier list is more so not the quality of the games like individually in a vacuum or put up against the rest of the industry. This is more so, how do these games rank up against other Pokemon games? You should think of it like that. Or other creature capture games, I guess. Without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. I'll fill in any blanks where I need to fill in any blanks. Generation 1 is Red and Blue, like Game Boy, like the black and white one. Not the game black and white, like the ones that are in black and white and on the Game Boy. I'm going to go ahead and put these in C tier. And I know that like if you're a Gen 1 fan, you probably don't like that I just did that. But let me explain why. Okay, so if I'm being completely honest with you, I don't think there's any reason to ever go back to Generation 1. Actually, you know what? I'm going to be even more spicy than that. I'm going to put them in D tier. There is no reason to play these, right? Like, unless you just want to see where the franchise started and like get that perspective, there's really no reason to play Generation 1. And even if that is the case, if you're coming from a newer generation, let's say you're coming from Gen 7, maybe even Gen 6, or even the most recent titles, there's so many quality of life features that just aren't present in these games that it's going to make enjoying them even harder than if you just picked them up and played them when they first released. Or if you picked them up and played them during like Generation 3. Like Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. The biggest problem with Generation 1 in particular is just that there's so many other ways that you can experience Generation 1 at this point that I don't see any justification to actually play OG Generation 1, to play Red and Blue. There are some things that are like interesting about this generation, such as not having this physical special split, having the special stat in general, like special attack and special defense being combined into one stat called special. That's kind of interesting. Psychic types being absolutely busted. That's something that's kind of interesting. The way the type chart works in this generation is different. And like there are like small changes. There are like small differences. Like some types don't exist yet. Like Fairy type doesn't exist in this generation. Held items don't exist. Abilities don't exist. The run button doesn't exist. Like, do you see what I mean when I say like this is kind of a hard one to go back to? Like, if you're emulating this, it's probably fine because you can just speed up and you can beat the game in like 2 hours. Especially if you know what you're doing and you like know where to go and stuff like that. But even then, like, but why would you do that, though? Like, why would you just not play one of the other versions of Kanto instead? I guess you could do, like, the Mew glitch, right, etc., those kinds of things. And let me be, like, let me give some credit to this version of the game, right? Or this version of Kanto. If this were released on the Switch, like, as a part of the Game Boy Advance Nintendo Switch Online thing, or even as, like, part of a collection of some kind that integrated this game with Pokemon Home, this is a bit more understandable for why you would play through this, right? Because you can catch all the Pokemon from this generation, or at least most of the Pokemon from Gen 1, you can catch the legendaries, and then you can ship them off to Pokemon Home. But again, like, why would you ever play this one when you could just play one of the other ones? So, I guess another reason that this one's kind of cool is, like, the sprites. You get to see the original, like, version of each Pokemon sprites, and there are some really wild ones, like Zubats, or which one is it? Is it Crobat? Oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be pretty good. Golbat, my bad. It's Golbat, whose sprite is a little weird. No, is it Zubat? I don't know. It's the one that has its tongue sticking out really far. It's kind of hard to differentiate. Well, I guess Crobat has eyes. No, sorry. Golbat has eyes, so it must be Golbat's sprite, because Zubat doesn't have eyes. At least that's my guess. I don't know. Whatever. The Pokemon sprite is fucking wild, so that's kind of interesting. Outside of that, like, the game's kind of glitchy. Some things just straight up don't work, right? Like, certain moves don't behave the way that they're advertised. Like, I think Focus Energy actually lowers your crit chance instead of raising it. Things like that, right? Like, the game is just not the best way to experience Kanto, if you ask me. But that's entirely subjective. If you've played this generation growing up, like, if you played through Red and Blue growing up, you probably love this generation. It's nostalgic for you. You're familiar with it. You like the bugs and glitches and missing no and all that crazy stuff. And if that's the case, more power to you. You know, have fun. But from an average Pokemon fan, or like a casual fan, or just from my point perspective, I never find myself going back to play this generation. I just don't think. I think the quality of life features that are missing just make it a slog to play through. Now, if you're playing like a ROM hack, right? Like Yellow Legacy or something like that kind of adds some quality of life features back to the game, it can be a fun time. But playing it pure is kind of rough. I guess I should probably comment on the actual map, right? Like, the actual content of the generation of Kanto. So I'm looking at this one in particular. This is not Kanto as a region, right? I think I'll talk about Kanto as a region when I get to Fire Red and Leaf Green. But if we were talking about Kanto as a region, like, this moves up to, like, A tier, because I think Kanto is really fun. But as, like, an actual game, like, should you play this one? No, I don't think so. But also not, like, terrible. So, like, take that however you will. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Yellow version. Yellow version has a lot of the same problems that I think Red and Blue have. I would put Yellow in, like, C tier. It's slightly more interesting than playing Red and Blue, and that's only because there are less versions of Yellow version, if that makes sense, right? Like there's never been an actual remake of Yellow version, like an official remake of Yellow version. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee are, like, soft remakes. They're, like, inspired by Yellow version, but they're not quite Yellow version because of certain things that we'll get into when I start talking about Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. But, like, Yellow version as a whole, if you never played it when it released, or you don't have access to it on, like, the virtual console, or you didn't emulate it, you've never actually experienced this version of the game, and I actually think that that's a, like, massive crime. I think all of the third generation games, like the third version games, need to be re-released or remade in some way, mostly just because the third versions of the games are almost always better than the original releases. And for some reason, we get remakes of the original releases instead of remakes of the third versions of the game, which are the superior versions of the game, which is just kind of like mind-blowingly baffling. But I'll get into that when I talk about weird decisions that the Pokemon Company makes in another video. Back to Yellow version. So the difference between Yellow version and Red and Blue is stuff like the starter you obtain is a Pikachu instead of Charmander and Bulbasaur and Squirtle and stuff like that, right? Some of the story beats are like slightly different, right? Like Team Rocket is in the game, that kind of thing. I'm gonna be honest with you, it's basically still just Kanto with like minor remixes and a few bug fixes. You're not like, it's still interesting. Like, I would still, if you haven't played Yellow version, if you've only ever played, you know, Fire Red and Leaf Green or just Red and Blue, I would implore you to seek out Yellow version in some regard, right? Whether it be like a ROM hack or just play it on like a virtual, for the 3DS virtual console, though I don't know if it's on the 3DS virtual console. Emulate it. What the fuck are they gonna do? Come on, like, they're not selling you the game, so just pick it up, just pirate it, fuck it, right? Like, what are you doing? Or I guess if, you know, for legal reasons, I can't say just emulate it. Go buy a physical copy of the game, you know, and a physical fucking Game Boy Advance or a Game Boy Color and play it on actual hardware. But like, let's be real, you're not gonna do that. So, you know, if you actually want to fucking play the game, just go play it on, you know, like, why is this not on Nintendo Switch Online, right? Like, why is this not on the Game Boy app for Nintendo Switch Online? These two are like massive W's if they were just put on the Nintendo Switch Online store where people could actually experience them for the first time if they've never experienced classic Pokemon. But again, we're not here to talk about the weird decisions that Game Freak makes or Nintendo makes. We're here to fucking talk about the actual games. So yeah, Yellow version, better than Red and Blue if you ask me. Only just because of like bug fixes and because it's like interesting and there's no like definitive version of Yellow that you can actually just go play. So if you want to experience Yellow version, you actually have to play the Game Boy version. And that makes it like slightly more interesting because there's not just, like I said, there's just not a better version, right? Like, the reason Red and Blue is in D tier is because why would you play this one when you could just play one of the other remakes of Kanto? But Yellow version gets C tier because there's actually a reason to play it because there's no remake of it. Okay. Moving on to Generation 2, we have Golden Crystal. Oh, boy. I'm going to be honest. I want to put this in F tier. If there was like a D and a half, right? If there was a number between, there is a number between, or a letter between D and F, it's E, but I'm not going to make an E tier specifically just for Gold and Silver. Gold and Silver are right behind Red and Blue. They are substantially worse than Red and Blue, in my opinion. There are like countless video essays you can watch that discuss the problems with Gold and Silver version. Like, from a conceptual, okay. From a hardware level, Gold and Silver are fine, right? Like, they're not buggy like Kanto is or Red and Blue are. There are bugs, but like not as bad as Red and Blue. The sprites are much better in Gold and Silver, if you ask me. It's like on the Game Boy Color, which is like really helpful for making the game look visually appealing. But like, again, quality of life features are missing from modern Pokemon games. I really don't recommend this one. Like, the biggest you know what, I'm gonna put it in F tier. The biggest reason you shouldn't play this one is because why the fuck would you play Gold and Silver when you can go play Heart Gold and Soul Silver? And I'll get to Heart Gold. You know what? No, I'm gonna spoil this now. Heart Gold and Soul Silver are S tier. They're S tier games. Like, why the fuck would you ever play this one when you could just play this one? This one is just infinitely better than the other one. So don't do that. Like, don't waste your time. Go play Heart Gold and Soul Silver instead of playing Gold and Silver version. I'm not going to even comment anymore on that. Let's move on to Crystal. Crystal version is actually, like, pretty good. I would put Crystal in B tier, actually. I played this on the 3DS when it was on the Virtual Console, and I actually enjoyed it. Like, it wasn't my favorite Pokemon game, but I did beat it. I played it all the way through. I enjoyed most of it. It was like an average experience. The graphics are fine. The music is fantastic. I love Generation 2's music. I'm a big fan of being able to go back to Kanto. Spoilers, I guess, if you've never played Generation 2. The Pokemon variety is like okay. Could definitely be better. ROM hacks fix this a lot. Honestly, if you're gonna experience any of these Game Boy Advance, if you're gonna experience any of the Game Boy games, just go play a ROM hack of them that like add quality of life features like the run button and stuff like that, or like the box, like it fixes the issues with the box. But like, that's probably cheating, right? If I say, oh, it's good, but you gotta like go play a ROM hack. But like, no, Crystal by itself is just a great experience. Like, well, it's okay. It's a good experience. I had fun with it. You would probably enjoy this too. If you're gonna go back and experience any of the old Game Boy Color, Game Boy games for the Pokemon franchise, Crystal is the one I would recommend to you the most. Yellow version is like right behind it, but Crystal, between it being Johto, and I really like Johto as a region, and it has Kanto built into it, like, so you get to experience kind of both classic Pokemon, like, you get to experience both Red version and Johto at the same time, but, like, not really, because you don't actually get the story for Kanto. You know what I mean, right? Crystal is fine. Crystal's a good version. Just like Yellow version, there is no remake of Crystal version, which I think, again, is kind of a fucking travesty that Crystal version never got a proper remake. I am less familiar with the differences between Crystal version and Gold and Silver, because I've only ever played Crystal version like once. But, you know, again, from what I remember, it was a good time. It was fun. All right, let's move on. We're talking about Ruby and Sapphire. So, Ruby and Sapphire actually have a special place in my heart because these were like the first Pokemon games I ever played. I actually played them many times on like my brother's Game Boy Advance growing up. I only ever got maybe to like the first gym at the furthest in these games when I was first playing them as a kid, because I just had limited access to the games, and the battery life on, you know, my Game Boy was like kind of trash because we used cheap batteries. So, and at the time I never really figured out how to save the game because I was a dumb kid. So, you know, like, again, nostalgia for me. I think the music is nostalgic. I think the visuals in Generation 3 are really nostalgic for me. Like, fun fact about me and like Generation 3, I think the running animation for Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald is like the best running animation in the series. And it's so much so that like when I play Fire Red and Leaf Green, I'm like, this running animation just feels really off. It feels wrong. Even down to like Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. I'm like, I'm not a big fan of the running animation here. I'm not a big fan of the running animation in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I think Heart Gold and Soul Silver's running animation might actually be the worst. Black and White's running animation is fine. Yeah, it's fine. It's okay. Anyway, back to Ruby and Sapphire. So, Hoenn as a region, I'm gonna be honest with you, is like my least favorite region. Like, as an actual, maybe not. There's one other game that has like a worse region in my opinion. But out of like the games that I would consider to be good, Hoenn's region is like the weakest for me. And maybe it's just because I've played through the first half of Hoenn so many times that the region is kind of like a snooze fest for me because I've seen it so many times. I don't know. But like, I don't really get that experience when I play through Kanto or Johto. So take with that whatever you will. Pokemon variety, I think, is like okay in Ruby and Sapphire. It's not the best, if I'm being completely honest. Like, it's lacking fire types. Again, there are like video essays that talk about this kind of thing a lot. What I will say though is I prefer Ruby and Sapphire for the most part, over Pokemon Emerald. And I know that that's kind of like a taboo thing to say. Uh, but even down to just like, I like Steven Stone as the champion more than I like Wallace. So, like, that's like the big reason for me. I also like the individual stories in these games for like Team Aqua and Team Magma rather than what we get in Emerald version. So, like, I don't know. Like, I'm fine with Ruby and Sapphire version for the most part. Though, I'll probably have to move this down to C tier instead of B tier. Mostly because I think if you're going to play Ruby and Sapphire, you should probably just play Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Again, quality of life features just go so hard in that game. I think aesthetically, the original games are like better just because I like the pixel art style more than I like the 3D art style. But if you can like emulate Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, the games look pretty good if you like upscale the textures and don't have this really shitty pixelated look that the 3DS gives all of these games because the screen is incredibly low resolution. Yeah, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are probably the best way to experience these games. Now, I don't think they're the best way to experience Hoenn in general, as much as, okay, so I enjoy Ruby and Sapphire, like, a lot of features from Ruby and Sapphire more than I enjoy features from Emerald. But if you were looking to play Generation 3, specifically you just want to experience Hoenn in its most complete state, that is where Pokemon Emerald comes in. And I would have to put Emerald in like A tier. Because it just has all of the features and hallmarks of a great Pokemon game. Right? It's got good balance for Pokemon availability. It's not buggy. Like, I don't think I've ever, in my many years of playing Emerald and Ruby and Sapphire, I don't think I've ever even stumbled across a bug in those games. Again, I think the Elite Four is like weak, or like the champion fight is kind of weak thematically, but that's neither here nor there, right? Like, your opinion on that may vary, and I don't think that's enough to like bring the entire experience down. I think the experience is very solid from beginning to end. I think this is like your quintessential Pokemon game, right? Like, if you've never played a Pokemon game before and you're looking for one to start with, Emerald is not a bad choice. Because it's on Game Boy, you can fucking use speed up if you're on emulators. You can breeze through this game relatively quickly. I think that the difficulty of this game is decent, right? Like, I don't think it's a little too easy. It's definitely more challenging depending on the starter you pick. I won't talk about that just yet. The main problem with this game is so much fucking water, right? Like, people have talked about this all the time, is the water in the game. There's a lot of it. I think from a visual standpoint, like, of the actual regions, what do you call it? Geography, right? Or like the climates and locations of the region are kind of samey to me. So like visual variety is kind of limited in this generation, but it's fun, right? It's a fun generation to play through. Again, I think the gym leaders are decently challenging. I think the storyline is actually like okay for it to be early Pokemon. There's definitely some stupid shit in there. There's some goofy shit in there. Like the stuff with the grunts can be kind of silly and absurd. The entire like conflict between Team Aqua and Team Magma and their goals are kind of fucking absurd. But I mean, so like when people complain about Pokemon stories in like the modern era, I'm like, did you play Emerald? Did you play Ruby and Sapphire? Because those motherfuckers wanted to flood or what do you call it? Evaporate all of the water on the land and just turn the planet into a single fucking landmass, or turn the planet into a giant fucking ocean. So like, there were stupid people in Pokemon games all the way back in Generation 3. So like, it's not a like fair complaint to make against the modern Pokemon games. But anyway, yeah, play Emerald. And Pokemon Company release a fucking remake of Emerald so that more people can play Emerald version. Or put it on the... Never mind. You know what I was going to say. Yeah, Emerald is fun. Play Emerald. Coliseum. Uh, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, why? It's fine. Like, I so for these kind of games, for like Coliseum, I'm actually gonna rank all of these like together. Coliseum, XD. Oh my god, I thought this was Stadium at first. I actually take that back. Coliseum is fun. Coliseum is like B tier. I have not actually. I would put it in. I haven't played, but I've played a little bit of Coliseum. It's fun. It's a unique way to play Pokemon. If you haven't played Coliseum before, I would definitely recommend giving it a shot. Depending on how you feel about double battles and like, you are either gonna put this game in like B tier or C tier. I know some people who would put this in like S tier. I think they're crazy. I think it's a fun experience. I think it's interesting. Again, the fact that like the whole game is double battles is kind of interesting. The story is like interesting because it like takes a completely different approach than most Pokemon stories do. It's like the first 3D Pokemon adventure that you can play through before like the 3DS games came out. It's got like shadow Pokemon and shit like that, and again, this one is like really fucking subjective. For me personally, I would put this in C tier. Just because it's kind of archaic nowadays, right? Like it's kind of hard to go back to this, at least for me. So much so that like even when I was a kid and I was playing through this, like I didn't beat it. This was the one that I didn't beat. I did beat Gale of Darkness, and I would put Gale of, like if Coliseum is in B tier or if Coliseum is in C tier, I would put Gale of Darkness in B tier. Because like the graphics are better in Gale of Darkness. I'm more familiar with Gale of Darkness, but both of these have bullshit in them, and that's mostly just like the difficulty spike near the end of the game. It's also like just, it's not your typical Pokemon adventure, right? Like you're not collecting gym badges or anything like that, really. Like it's got its own story. Like these are kind of like the Legend ZA of Pokemon games before Legend ZA came out, or the Legends game in general, right? Where it's like it's doing its own story thing. It's not doing gyms. You're more so like progressing through an actual storyline, and your Pokemon gets stronger as you do that, right? And do like random battles and stuff like that as you do that. Collecting Shadow Pokemon is kind of interesting. Purifying them is kind of interesting. Like the story is interesting. The graphics are interesting. But like, again, depending on what you want from a Pokemon game, you're either gonna find these really refreshing, or you're gonna be like, what the fuck is this? Like, I'm good on this. It doesn't help that, again, they're restricted to the GameCube, and they're kind of archaic in their design. They're kind of clunky in their design, and they're kind of bullshit in their difficulty in certain fights. So go into these with like limited expectations. Like go into it expecting something different, but with the hopes of maybe being pleasantly surprised. And I think you'll be fine. I wouldn't recommend these as highly as maybe some other people would. But if you are just like absolutely dying to play something different from the Pokemon franchise, these are good options. Though I would recommend you just go play a fucking ROM hack or something like that, or a fan game that will probably give you more fulfillment. But if you just have to stick with the original games or official releases, these are not bad options. I'm sure I just pissed a lot of people off by putting these in like C and D tier, or C and B tier, but it's fuck you, it's my list. All right, Fire Red and Leaf Green. Fire Red and Leaf. I want to put these in S tier. I want to put these in S tier really badly, but I don't think my conscience can actually put it in it. Like, would I put Fire Red and Leaf Green in the same tier as Heart Gold and Soul Silver? You know what? Yes, I would. The reason is, like, now we actually get to talk about Kanto, right? I think Kanto is one of the best regions. There's a reason why they keep going back to Kanto, right? Why they show so much favoritism for Kanto. Yes, it's nostalgia, but also like the original 151 are solid Pokemon, right? Like there's just solid Pokemon in there. Yes, even Muck, I think, is like a solid Pokemon. It's goofy looking. It's funny, right? Like look at that thing's face. Look at it. Look at it. This guy's just having a good time, right? So like, there's something special to me about Kanto, and I'm not even like a big Gen 1 guy. Like I didn't grow up really on Generation 1. Like I said, I grew up on Gen 3. Even down to like watching the anime, right? Like I mostly watched Advanced Battle growing up, and then Diamond and Pearl growing up. So I was like Generation 3, Generation 4 as a kid. I did watch, I did get a chance to watch some Gen 1 and Gen 2, but most of my memories of watching the show are with May and Dawn and Max, right? I think that was his name. I don't fucking know. It's been, bro, that's been like 15 years since I watched that show. But anyway, back to Fire Red and Leaf Green. So Fire Red and Leaf Green are like the definitive Kanto experience for me. Until we get an actual remake of like Yellow version or Red and Blue with like modern mechanics, I would still say that this is like the best version of Kanto that you can experience. Even with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee being out, while I think that's the prettiest way to experience Kanto, I don't think it's the definitive Kanto experience. Mostly because there's no held items, right? I don't think there's any abilities in that particular game. Your starter Pokemon is absolutely fucking busted. Like they have some of the most broken abilities I've ever seen, or the most broken moves I've ever seen in any fucking Pokemon game. Their base stats have been fucking buffed out of the, like, to the moon. Like I said, it's a cute game. It's a fun game. We'll get to that one. But I'm not going to comment any further on that until we get to Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. But Fire Red and Leaf Green is like, you can battle wild Pokemon, right? Like grinding is kind of fun and interesting. The Pokemon variety is good. The region is good. The gym leaders are memorable and fun. Like I think I've played Fire Red and Leaf Green so many times. Many of the routes are actually just burned into my retinas. Like the image of the routes are just burned into my fucking mind permanently. Fucking the rival is fantastic. I didn't even talk about the rival in a lot of these games. So like Speed Round, right? Like the rival in Red and Blue is like S tier. Blue is such a dick, but he's like a lovable asshole because while like Blue actually feels like the only genuine rival that you have in Pokemon, right? Silver is an asshole. Blue is just a lovable dick, right? I had a friend once who told me, you know, everyone loves a dick. No one loves an asshole, right? And I think I agree with that. Like, you want to be a dick. You don't want to be an asshole. It's just ridiculous. But, so, like, Blue, you leave at the same time. You're, like, neighbors. You kick his ass to start with. And then he's like, well, you know, you won't really be needed for this, right? I can handle this moving forward. So you can just like kick your feet up and don't even worry about handling the adventure. I got it, right? And then like every chance you get, you shit on him. And he's like, hey, you know what? You're pretty good. Like here's a fucking item to help you out, right? Or man, you're really lagging behind. You know, here's something to help you catch up, right? Like it's shit like that. Like he actually feels like he's like one of your friends who just so happens to be a dick, who's like, you're talking trash to each other as you're going on this adventure, but like there's no real malice behind it, right? It's just like kids being kids, poking fun at each other, and kind of like teasing each other, that kind of thing. And I think that's more or less what I like about Blue. Plus, like Blue gets humbled by the end of the game and does it in a respectable manner instead of like crying about it, I guess is the way I would word it. Like he doesn't crash the fuck out. He doesn't like freak out or anything like that. He doesn't complain. He doesn't whine. He's just like, damn, like you're actually pretty good. Like you actually beat me. Like what the fuck? I guess you're that nigga. I guess. Okay. Sure. And I don't know. I like that about Blue. Now, Silver has like better character development, I guess. Maybe. I would argue Blue's character development being like he grows to respect you way more by the end of the game, whereas Silver changes his perspective on reality, right? And on Pokemon in general. Whereas Blue changes kind of his perspective specifically on you, right? Again, video essays exist that talk about these characters, so if you really want like in-depth analysis of their characters and how they change, go watch one of those. But I prefer Blue. I prefer his teasing over Red or over Silver just being kind of edgy, for the sake of being edgy. May or Brandon, right? I've experienced having May as the rival way more than I've experienced having Brandon, or Brendan, however you say his name. May does not feel like a rival, right? She feels like she is just there. She is a friend, right? Or a companion rather than an actual rival, right? Like, she tests you, she battles you, but it's never like we're competing with each other or trying to keep up with each other. It's just more like, hey, let me see how you're doing, right? How about a quick friendly battle just to keep you on your toes or something like that, right? Or just to see where you're at from like a strength perspective or something like that. Wally doesn't get enough screen time for me to consider him a rival, right? Like, I think how many times do you fight Wally? Like three or four times? Plus the final battle in the Elite Four or something like that, or on Victory Road. So I don't know. Like, definitely could have done more with Wally. It also doesn't help that like he sticks with the Ralts on his team rather than him having like a proper starter, the way that you would. So like the first few times you fight him, you can just kind of shit on him because Ralts and Corellia aren't really that great of Pokemon, and Gardevoir doesn't really get. Gardevoir is fantastic even in Generation 3, but like that Pokemon really becomes busted in my opinion once you give her the Fairy type. So he's better in like the remakes as opposed to the original games. I think that's it, right? Yeah, we haven't gotten to Generation 4 yet. So again, I think Blue is the best rival in the series so far. I think he's the best, period, like across all of the next generations we're going to cover. Just because he actually feels like a proper rival, and you fight him a decent number of times, and he's like decently fucking challenging, as opposed to just being a fucking cakewalk. I guess I didn't really talk about the difficulty too much of these games, right? So, Red and Blue, or sorry, Fire Red and Leaf Green, I think probably the perfect difficulty level. Maybe a bit on the easier side, right, compared to some of the other entries that I'm going to talk about, or I guess the next entry I'm going to talk about. But I think if this is like your first experience, this is challenging enough to be fun, right? Like, I don't think it's bullshit difficulty, or, I mean, to be fair, like, for all of these games, you can kind of breeze through these games with your starter for the most part. But this one offers some pushback, right? Like, it has proper dungeons, right? Like Zubat, what is it, the Zubat Cave? Mount Moon, right? That kind of shit. I'm sorry, it's fucking late. I'm pretty sure I'm mixing up some locations, but you get what I mean, right? Like the tunnel or the mountain that leads from Pewter City to the city where May is. There's so many fucking cities in Pokemon that I feel like I'm gonna get that one wrong, but that whole place that's infested with Zubats, and then you have to fight the Team Rocket grunts. You have to fight the guy with the fossil in there, and you have to fight random trainers in there. Like, if you don't stock up on healing items, like, that location is kind of like an early game competency check for your team and for you as a player, right? Because it just whittles you down over the course of you leaving that dungeon, to the point where, like, when you finally get out of the dungeon, you're like, thank fucking God, dude, I need to get to a Pokemon Center so badly because my team is just bleeding out. And it's like that kind of thing you just don't experience in later generations. Or you don't experience it a lot in later generations. Because it's like at the end of every dungeon or every like challenging location, the game is like, here's a random Nurse Joy just sitting there waiting for you in the middle of fucking nowhere. It's just like, hey, you need me to heal your Pokemon? And it's like, what the fuck are you even doing out here? Like that kind of thing. It's mind-blowing. This generation doesn't have that. Fire Red and Leaf Green doesn't have that. Pretty much all of the generations prior to like Gen 5 don't have shit like that. It's like, no bitch, you're in a dungeon, you should have brought repels, you should have brought potions, right? You should have brought berries. If you didn't, prepare to black out or make that trek back out to the fucking start and get to the Pokemon Center in the town that you came from. From a visual standpoint, I think Fire Red and Leaf Green are fantastic games. The Generation 3 art style is just really nice to look at. Not better than Black and White's, because obvious reasons, but again, I think you'll find this visually appealing. I think the sprites are way better than they are in Red and Blue, but again, it's kind of subjective depending on you if you like the goofier, kind of more out there sprites of Gen 1. This is a much more familiar Pokemon game, right? Like, if you're going to experience Gen 1, the Pokemon are going to look the way that they're meant to look. The moves are going to function the way that they're meant to function for the most part. Right? Everything kind of works. It's got the... Ooh, no. I actually don't think this one has the physical special split. I could be wrong, though. I play so many ROM hacks of the Game Boy Advance games, and most of them come with the physical special split anyway, so it's hard for me to remember if Fire Red and Leaf Green have it naturally or not. But just like having held items, having abilities, right? Like, experiencing Kanto with held items and abilities is just like the definitive way to experience Kanto, in my opinion. Again, I desperately await a proper remake of Red and Blue, where it brings in like fairy type, it brings in like all of the updated moves, where you can play through the game with every Pokemon, like it has the national dex in it, all that kind of stuff. Like, I would really, really love to experience Kanto with like some newer Pokemon and stuff like that. Alright, so that about wraps up everything I have to say about Fire Red and Leaf Green. It's a good generation, or it's a good set of remakes. Go play it if you haven't already. Again, this is one of those that needs to desperately come to the Nintendo Switch Online thing, or in like a collection or remake package or of some kind. But more kids need to experience Kanto in like the definitive version of Kanto. Moving on, let's talk about Diamond and Pearl version for the Nintendo DS. Whew. Are these the next D tier? I think it is. I think it's D tier. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's definitely better than Red and Blue, but like, it's just so fucking slow. Have you played Diamond and Pearl recently? You probably have, because you've probably played Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl if you're a Pokemon fan. These are like not great experiences. D tier is too harsh. I can't willingly put that under Ruby and Sapphire, but actually I can. So it's like just behind Ruby and Sapphire, but just after, like just ahead of Yellow version and Coliseum. It's just like, no, actually, I am going to put them in D tier. The reason I'm going to put Diamond and Pearl in D tier is the same reason I'm going to put Red and Blue in D tier. Why would you ever play Diamond and Pearl version when you could either play Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, or you could play Platinum? There is no reason to ever play these games on the original DS hardware. Even if you like the art style, if you're going to play Gen 4, if you're going to play Sinnoh, play Platinum. Do not play these versions. The main issue, and like, don't get me wrong, I have a soft spot for Diamond and Pearl version, because Diamond and Pearl version were the first Pokemon games I ever actually owned, right? Like, these were the first ones that I went to the store, me and my mom, we bought the game, well, she bought it for me because I was like 12, right? I had a DS at the time, and I just fucking loved it, right? I played through the whole game. I had a blast, right? It's a fun version, right? It's a fun generation, but it's just outdated. Like, there's no reason to ever play this over Platinum or Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Unless you just absolutely hate Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and you just have to play it, like, play these games on the original hardware that they're released on, to experience them for the first time. Sure, right? I mean, I guess, but okay, to be fair, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl do make the games significantly easier, so I can understand why you would say you want to play them on the original hardware so that you get that original difficulty experience. But again, if you want that, just go play Platinum, right? Just play Platinum. It's a better experience. But anyway, Gen 4 as a whole, let's do Platinum now, right? Because I feel like I'm about to talk a lot of shit about Diamond and Pearl, and people are going to assume that I'm talking about Sinnoh in general, and I'm not. Platinum is S tier. It is debatably on the same level as Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Depending on the day that you ask me, Platinum might actually be better than Heart Gold and Soul Silver. In fact, for the sake of this argument, and I'm just feeling really, I'm feeling in a Generation 4 mood right now, I'm going to place Platinum above Heart Gold and Soul Silver. And I fucking love Heart Gold and Soul Silver. We'll talk about that next, because that's when Heart Gold and Soul Silver released, was after Generation 4 first released. But so just know, Sinnoh as a region, S tier, right? God tier even. But just Diamond and Pearl, slow games. Like, once you hit, this isn't as noticeable in the early game, but once you hit like level 20, level 30, level 40, and you start hitting Pokemon with one hit KO moves, the fucking bar for their health bar moves so slow. It's unbelievable. It's fucking depressing. And I'm talking about playing this shit on actual hardware, right? Not emulating it. Play it on an actual DS. This shit is unbearable with how slow the game is. So yeah, it's just, that's really what holds it back, is this is a completely technical problem compared to, like, a regional problem. The region itself for Sinnoh, for Gen 4, is amazing. I love Barry as a rival. Right, some people find him annoying. He can be kind of annoying at times, but for the most part, I find him to be a lovable rival. He comes very close to Blue in the sense that, like, he actually feels like a rival. Like, he feels like your friend. He doesn't talk shit to you like Blue does, but he's constantly fighting you, right? I think it's like every gym, if not every other gym, you have a rival fight with this guy. And he keeps you on your fucking toes, right? Like, he's like, Barry is not a bitch. Like, Barry is decent, especially if you don't take Monferno, right? If you don't take Chimchar, if you take if you take Turtwig, like, because I think Barry, this is still these are still the generations where the rival picks the thing that's strong against you, right? Which is something I forgot to mention about the earlier generations that make them better than the later generations, is because in later generations, your rival picks the thing that's weaker to you instead of picking the thing that's strong to you, so they don't even feel like a challenging rival because the game wants to baby you and make it super easy, and it's really fucking annoying. But anyway, yeah, so if you pick Turtwig, like, Barry has Monferno and Infernape, and Infernape is just scary as fuck, right? Like, that's one of the scariest Pokemon that you can ever fight against. So, like, don't do that. Don't pick the moral of that is try not to pick Turtwig if you can help it. But the fact that I have to consider that when I'm picking my starter, I have to consider, do I want to run something that can counter Monferno on my team, right? Like, do I actually want to build around the fact that he's gonna have a fucking Infernape? That is infinitely better than any of the decisions that you have to make in modern Pokemon, where I don't even have to think about what my rival is gonna pick, right? So yeah, like Berry is fun. The gym leaders I think are actually pretty fun in Platinum version in Sinnoh. You start with a rock type gym, which is, it's like, can we stop doing that? This is like this is the 4th generation, right? The 4th generation in a row where we start with a rock type gym. Like, no more. Please stop. Ooh, no. Johto starts with a flying type. I'm so sorry. I'm confusing Johto with Hoenn. Yeah, this is like the 3rd rock type gym that we start with. Please stop. No more. I don't want to start with a rock type gym anymore. Especially just because it limits your starter choice, right? Like, not for this game, because Infernape is just based, like, he's a fantastic fucking... Oh, I didn't even talk about the starters for all of these games. Maybe I'll do like a speed round at the end where I'll talk about all the starters. But Infernape just stomps like everything in this game. Chimchar just completely obliterates the whole game for the most part, right? Like he shits on the rock type gym leader. He shits on Gardenia, right? Like it's insane. He maybe struggles like a little bit against the ghost type gym, but he's a fire type, so he just like you just flamethrower or whatever. Everything that she does, it's fine. But like variety wise, I really like the gym leaders, right? Grass, rock, grass, ghost. I think electric. Oh, I'm really showing it. Ice, even though ice gets shit on, right? Steel type. Like it's a solid gym lineup in my opinion, right? Like I like this gym lineup. Just the region in general is like very diverse. There's an ice biome like at the top, which gets kind of like turns into kind of a slog. There's maybe too many caves in Sinnoh, but I don't really mind it because I like dungeons, and we don't really get a lot of that anymore. Decent amount of water, plenty of grassy areas. Fucking, they have an entire section that's like a forest, like a giant forest that's like covering the sun, so little bits of sun are like poking out through the trees. Like that's a really cool, it's a good aesthetic, right? I like it. I like the aesthetic of Generation 4's region of Sinnoh. In fact, Sinnoh might actually be my favorite generation from like a travel and visual standpoint. Like I don't really ever get tired of traveling around Sinnoh, like I do Hoenn, or even Johto to some degree. I find its region to be a bit on the bland side because it just doesn't have that like variety that Sinnoh has, or visual variety that Sinnoh has. But they fixed that in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Like Heart Gold and Soul Silver is very visually appealing. But yeah, and then of course like the evil team. I like Team Galactic. They're a bit on the goofier side. Like I think Team Galactic is the only other team that's like genuinely threatening the same way Team Rocket was. Like Team Galactic captures the energy of Team Rocket perfectly. The grunts are goofy and stupid and dumb and just like kids playing dress up for the most part. Well, Team Rockets were actual like adults who were fucking criminals. So, but from a dialogue perspective, they're just like goofy dickheads who have no idea what they're doing. But like the admins for Team Galactic are fun. The admins for Team Rocket are fun. Giovanni is threatening and interesting. Cyrus is threatening and interesting. Cyrus's plan to want to like fucking remake the entire world using the legendary Pokemon. Like, come on, like that's really cool. Cyrus is way more ambitious than Giovanni ever was, right? Like Giovanni wanted to run a fucking criminal empire. Cyrus wanted to remake all of reality in his image. Like that's fucking badass. And I think that's what makes Cyrus a very memorable antagonist. Hence why I think the remakes for like Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl do such a disservice to Generation 4 and Sinnoh as a whole, because a big part of what makes Sinnoh so memorable is Cyrus, is the distortion world, is the story with Giratina, right? Is his ambition to remake the world, which is it's like still there in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, right? It's still there in the base games of Pearl and Diamond, but it isn't given as much time to sit in like be developed as it is in Platinum version with Giratina and whatnot. So it just feels like a missed opportunity to not do that in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. But again, I'll circle back to that when we talk about Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. But, and then of course there's Cynthia. Like, come on, like everyone knows fucking Cynthia. Everyone is terrified of Cynthia, and for good reason. Cynthia is a scary fucking champion. In fact, I think she is, from my recollection, the hardest champion I've ever had to fight. Both in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl and in Platinum version, I think she's fucking terrifying. Now, of course, you can just out-level her, right? And that makes the fight much easier. If you're using, like, switch mode, that makes the fight much easier. If you're using items, it makes the fight much easier. But even with switch mode, even with items, even with, like, a slight level, what's the word I'm looking for? Advantage on her. Cynthia is still scary. Like, Garchomp is no fucking joke. Spiritomb is no fucking joke. Roselia is no fucking joke. Lucario is no fucking joke. Right? Like, she's just a fucking scary trainer. Especially scary at the end of a gauntlet against 4 other pretty tough Elite Four members. Right? Where your moves, you might have less PP on your moves. If you're not using items, right? Like, you're going to be kind of winded and stuff like that in terms of, like, the health that your Pokemon have. Just, like, and then mentally, right? You might be kind of fucking drained. You might need to reset. Like, take a break, come back, and actually, okay, I'm over exaggerating. She's not that difficult. It's still a Pokemon game. It's still a Pokemon battle. But she is a formidable step up from what you would face. Like, Cynthia like, if you just took Cynthia from this game and put her in every other Pokemon game released after this, she just stomps the whole game, right? Like, there is no other trainer in the rest of the franchise that I think actually competes with Cynthia in terms of, like, being, in terms of, like, how solid her team is, in, like, the moves she chose for her Pokemon and stuff like that. In Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, they give her fucking held items in shit like that are terrifying. Like, that boss fight is unironically way harder in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl than it is in the base games, and I think that's hilarious because those are like baby games. So yeah, like I said, these are the kind of things that make this generation really memorable. And then of course there's I forgot to mention this in Emerald section, the whole battle frontier. Like, just add, oh yeah, you just spent fucking 20 hours playing a Pokemon game? Yeah, add another 10 or 15 hours just in the Battle Frontier. If not more than that, where you just get to dick around in the Battle Frontier. Sinnoh has it. Sinnoh has the fucking Battle Frontier. And for some reason, we just don't bring Battle Frontier back. Black and White have something similar, but where is it? Like, why? Sinnoh is the last game next to, like, Black and White that have, like, insane post-game potential, right? Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon come really close, but it's like the Battle Frontier, this is shit that you can do, like, after you beat the game, you can just spend hours just doing the Battle Frontier stuff, and that's really fun. So I don't know. Like, you can definitely tell, like, this is why I think Platinum is, like, peak. Right? Like, if there's only one Pokemon game that you're ever going to play, let it be Platinum. If not Platinum, Heart Gold and Soul Silver, but you're really missing out if you don't play Platinum. See, like, for Gold and Silver, I think Gold and Silver function as a great expansion of Johto, right? It's a great continuation, of Kanto. I think it's a great continuation of what Generation 1 lays out. But I think Kanto is kind of, as fun as it is to go back to Kanto in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, it's kind of underdeveloped as a region, because you more or less just go and do the boss fights, and, like, there's some minor story stuff there, but like that whole other, it's not like there's a whole second game waiting for you, right? It's just, here's a new map, you can kind of just go and explore it and collect the rest of the Pokemon that you're missing from Kanto, fight the gym leaders, and then do the Elite Four again, right? Like, as cool as it is, as much as I love it, it's not this mind-blowing experience when you actually like sit down and play through it. But Sinnoh, like Platinum, is a complete experience that feels completely like fleshed out and thought out, right? Like Johto, Heart Gold and Soul Silver feel like you don't really enjoy it the way you would if you played Kanto first, because there's a lot of nostalgia for Kanto in those games, whereas this is like, you don't need to, even down to like the main story for Johto, right, where Giovanni and Team Rocket are like kind of back, or they're trying to make a comeback, right? If you didn't play Kanto, that doesn't really hit the same. Whereas Platinum is like, this is its own story, it's self-contained. Team Galactic, like the story of Team Galactic is here from beginning to end. The region feels complete. It's self-contained. Like I said, it's self-contained, right? So I think if you're just gonna play one Pokemon game, if you've never played Pokemon before, Platinum is the one to go with. It fixes the issues with the battle system for the most part with Diamond and Pearl, so it's way faster than Diamond and Pearl is. It's a bit more challenging, right? So the problem. This is why I can talk about this kind of shit for hours. I'm sorry. The problem with the problem with Platinum is once you play Platinum, every other game that you're going to play in this franchise feels substantially worse than Platinum. That's the problem with starting with Platinum. Is you're going to be like, damn, this was peak, right? Like, this was fantastic. This was great. I see why people love this franchise. And then you go and you play Pokemon Sun and Moon, and you're like, what the fuck happened? Right? Like, what is this? What happened to this franchise? Where I literally went from playing peak to playing trash, and it's so depressing. So my order would probably be, play Platinum, then play Heart Gold and Soul Silver, then play Red and Blue, or Fire Red and Leaf Green, then you play Emerald, right? You do that and you're probably set. Those are probably the only games that you really need to play in the first generation. Like if you're gonna experience the first 4 generations, and if you're gonna experience Pokemon in the order of like best games to play to start with, these are what I would recommend. All right, I think I've glazed Platinum a bit too much. Let's move on. I'll have a little bit more to say on Sinnoh in Generation 4 when we get to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, but I've mostly said my piece. Black and White. Black and White are A-tier games. Depending on my mood, I might even put Black and White in S-tier. This was like the last major Pokemon game that I like sunk a bunch of hours into and Ooh, no, that's not true. Gen 6 was the last one. But I was coming off of my Pokemon high by Generation 5, right? By Black and White. This was pretty much when I stopped playing Pokemon, or like stopped being a hardcore fan of Pokemon. Was around this time. I was like in 5th grade or something like that, right? Like I was on my way through middle school, and I actually no, I think I was like mostly done with middle school, on my way to high school, when I started playing Gen 5. So the problem with Generation 5, actually, I'm going to keep it in A tier, because it can't be S tier for the reasons I'm about to discuss. Generation 5 is fucking slow. And it's slow because it's the start of Pokemon games yapping at you, in the same way that I'm yapping at you in this video. Like, this is the start of the Pokemon games basically telling you, okay, here's your like purpose, here's your adventure, go have fun. And then you take 3 steps and the game is like, hey, by the way, did you do this thing, or do you want to learn how to do this? And then you're like, yeah, I got you. And then you take 2 more steps and the game is like, hey, look at this thing over here, you should go do this thing over here. And then you go do the thing over there, and then you're like, okay, can I play the game now? Like, are the shackles off? Can I actually just go explore the region? And the game's like, yeah, go ahead. And then you take 2 more steps, and the game is like, hey, by the way, can you go help me do this thing? Like, it's like the game just keeps fucking pestering you and railroading you in certain directions instead of just letting you explore the region and play the game. There's so much dialogue. There's so much yapping in this fucking game. It brings down the experience, in my opinion. Like, Team Plasma is an interesting team, but so much time is dedicated to Team Platinum, to Team Plasma, and like the issues that they're causing. Basically, for like the first 3 gym leaders that you do, Team Plasma is involved, right? So you have to like go help them with the Team Plasma thing first, then you can fight them. It's I'm making it sound way worse than it is. If you just mash through all of this shit, like you don't fucking care, you just speed up and just hit the A button, mash through all the dialogue, and then just get the shit done, it's perfectly passable. It's perfectly fine. But if you're actually like sitting there playing, trying to be immersed in the game and in the world, this is one of the slower regions, at least at first. And it helps that the game is pretty, right? Like, it's one of the best looking Pokemon games on the DS, in my opinion, because of just how much shit is on screen. There's a lot of like 3D effects in this game that are really nice. Its pixelation is a bit gross, if you ask me. Like, I'm not a big fan of the character models in this game. Like, I think everyone is a bit too skinny, or everyone has this weird like teardrop hourglass look to their characters. And everyone like has their hands stretched out to their side in a really weird and like unnatural way. It's almost like they're T-posing. It's kind of weird. It's sounding like I'm shitting on this game, and I kind of am, but there's a lot to like about Black and White as well, right? Like the animations, the pixel art animation on the Pokemon is fucking phenomenal. I'm gonna be honest with you, I think that's enough to play the game in and of itself, right? If you love Pokemon, you have to play Black and White or Black and White 2 just to see the pixel art, the animated Pokemon, because I don't think the Pokemon ever look better than they do in this generation, in Gen 5. When they shift to 3D, they lose a lot of personality. In the previous games, their personality is like static because there's not a lot of animation for the Pokemon, because they just kind of stand there as a PNG. In this game, you actually get to see them move in pixel art form, and there's so much expression, there's so much personality. I really love it. It's like the highlight of Gen 5, in my opinion. Then of course there's like, if you actually are paying attention to the story and you actually care, this game's story is pretty decent, in the sense that it's like about whether or not like, it's kind of like a critique on Pokemon itself to some degree, where they're like, hey, are we treating Pokemon like slaves because we keep them in Pokeballs and force them to fight each other and all that kind of stuff, right? But the game never really dives into it or like asks serious questions like that, right? It's just more like, in my opinion, it feels like it's kind of poking fun at the argument that used to go around that Pokemon is just slavery. And then of course it's revealed that like the main bad guy doesn't give a shit about all of that. He just wants to take over the world or some shit like that, right? It's typical Saturday morning villain cartoon thing. But N is actually an interesting character, and I actually think the game is worth playing just for N alone. Well, like, he's one of the main reasons I would recommend the game, right? Don't play the game just for N, but N's like a highlight of the game, just because of how like creepy and weird and interesting N is as an actual like antagonist or as a secondary character. This is like the start of, oh, your companions or your rivals aren't really your rivals. They're more like just your friends going on their own adventure, and they just so happen to be adventuring with you, right? I still think Chenren is like a decent rival. He's way better than Bianca is. Like, Bianca feels like May, Chenren feels like more like Barry, in the sense that he's there just to kind of test your skills and abilities, but he's not an active dick to you like Blue or Silver is, right? Chenren might be like the last good rival that you actually get in these in the series, or like the last passable rival. Hugh Hue is okay, but like we're talking about Black and White too at that point. Um, let's see what else. The region itself, I, I'm gonna be honest with you, and like this sounds weird coming from a someone who lives in the States, given that this is like based on New York City, but I actually think Unova is like kind of not great as a read. It's just okay. Um, like I don't ever play through Unova and I'm like, oh yeah, like this it's fucking gorgeous, right? I love this region, right? It's always just like, yep, that's Unova, right? I guess maybe it's because like a lot of it is very urban inspired, and I find that aesthetic to be kind of boring. Like there's a lot of cities that look like actual cities for the most part. There's a lot of towns that look very urbanized. Like the aesthetic feels kind of off for Pokemon in my opinion, right? And it's because of how urbanized everything is. Like it almost feels like a fan game from the aesthetics, and it doesn't help that like this is the first game that has like detailed sprite work and stuff like that in animation for Pokemon. So it very much conveys that feeling of like this is a fan game that is just officially made. Um, Not in the sense that it's like cheaply made. It's just like it doesn't quite capture the like art style, the consistent art style that you expect from Pokemon. Now I completely understand. Like that's just me. That's just my opinion. But again, it sounds like I'm shitting on Black and White. So why is it in A tier? It's an A tier because it's a genuinely challenging game. Um, I think you will have probably the most fun playing Black and White out of most of the other Pokemon games. Like in terms of the actual battles in the gym leader and the variety of Pokemon that you have access to. Like this game gave you a whole new 151, I believe, right? Like I think it's 151 new Pokemon in the decks, where it doesn't have any of the Pokemon from the other generations in its starter decks for the most part. So every time I play through Black and White, it feels so fresh because it's like, you know, you're not seeing duplicates from other generations that are like mainstays, right? And I think that that's really refreshing. I actually wish more Pokemon games would do that. Feature like the majority, front load you with the majority of the new Pokemon, and then only near the very end or in the post game does it open up and give you access to some of the older Pokemon. This is why these games need like a new game plus and shit like that would really be nice. But the starters, like I'm a huge fan of all of the starters in this generation. Snivy is like one of my favorite fucking starters of all time. I think Servine is ugly, right? I hate Servine as a middle evolution, but Snivy is S tier because it's cute and it's got fucking personality and it's sassy, and I really like that about Snivy. And then Serperior is just a fucking awesome looking Pokemon and it has a great name. Serperior is just a fucking badass name for a snake grass type Pokemon. And I think the Drayano hacks really elevate that Pokemon because it gives you access to its hidden ability, Contrary, which is fucking busted in my opinion. And it makes Serperior a fucking dragon type, like a grass dragon type, which is badass. Tepig is great. I love Tepig. He's adorable. Imbor is just a fist that just demolishes everything in its path. It's so satisfying. Okay, Oshawott is such a fun Pokemon to talk about because I think Oshawott is adorable, right? I love Oshawott's first evolution. Duat is probably my favorite middle evolution of all time. In fact, it might be one of my favorite Pokemon designs of all time. And it's fucking ruined by its final evolution. Samurai, right? I believe is what the final evolution is called. You take a Pokemon that's based on a samurai, basically, right? And its middle evolution is it standing on two legs. It's got two fucking shells that can let it use Razor Shell as its swords. And instead of turning it into, and I get a lot of people are going to complain because they're like, I hate Pokemon that, fucking turn into humanoid looking Pokemon. I want it to look like a monster, right? I want it to look like an animal. This is the case where I think making it look like a fucking monster ruins the evolution line, right? Duat should have evolved into like a badass old samurai with a fucking beard that stands on two legs and wields two swords, right? With the razor shells. That would have been so much better. It would have been an infinitely better evolution than what we get with samurai. Because how is samurai a samurai if it doesn't have hands? It can't wield the swords. It doesn't have hands. I think I'm gonna put up some images of like fan art for potential evolutions for Duat that would have been more consistent with like what I had in mind. But we just don't fucking get it, and it's really depressing, and it like makes me it actively saddens me that that's the evolution for Duat. What wasted potential. Like if I ever do a playthrough of Black and White, I'm just gonna give Duat the Eviolite, and I'm not gonna evolve it because I think Samurai is that bad. Like, from a design standpoint, Samurai is fine. It looks cool, but it just moving on. The starters are great. That's one of the reasons why I love Gen 5. And then, of course, like, the Elite Four is good. The final battle within is really fun and interesting. It's just a solid generation, right? Like in the same way that I think Emerald is a solid generation. If you're looking for Pokemon games to play after you play the 3 in S tier, Black and White is a great choice. But hold off on that, because I actually think the one that you should play over Black and White is Black and White 2. Black and White 2 go into S tier for me. It's right behind Fire Red and Leaf Green. I don't think it's as good as Platinum. I don't think it's as good as Heart Gold and Soul Silver. My main problem with Black and White 2 is, again, yapping. Right? The game just fucking yaps and yaps and yaps and yaps and yaps. Like, it just keeps fucking going. Especially the early game. The early game is some of the most yapping, side questy bullshit you have ever seen. I don't like it. I hate shit like that in Pokemon. Give me my fucking starter. Tell me to go do the gym leaders, and then just let me go out into the world and fucking catch Pokemon and like make my team and go fight the gym leaders, right? Only about halfway through the game, maybe after like the second or third gym, should the game start saying shit like, hey, by the way, there's this thing going on, right, that you should probably go do, or you should probably take care of. Or like the main objective or like the side objective should be intertwined with the main objective, right? An example is in Emerald version, right? In Hoenn, you're going up to fight Roxanne, right? You're going to the town where you get to fight Roxanne and get the first gym badge because your dad literally tells you, yo, go collect all the other gym badges, or go collect 4 other gym badges and then come back and fight me. So you have a goal in mind that the game has given you, and that's intrinsically motivated because you want to beat your dad, right? So you're like, okay, let's go to Roxanne. You take the path up to Roxanne, and as you're going up to the town to get to Roxanne, you find the Devon Goods guy getting attacked by a Team Aqua or Team Aqua or Team Magma grunt. And you help him, right? It's just one battle, right? It's really quick. It's a small cutscene. It's one battle. He fucks off. The Devon Goods guy is like, yo, thanks. Appreciate you. Here's a great ball or some shit like that. And then he fucks off. And then you finish the rest of the route. You get to the town. You fight Roxanne. And after you beat Roxanne and you leave the gym, that is when the Devon Goods guy gets his shit stolen again. And you have to go help him by beating the team, the grunt in the cave, right? And by beating the grunt in the cave, you get access to the sailor because you rescue Peko, and he helps you get to the next town. And once you get to the next town, you can immediately fight the next gym leader, right? Like, do you see how, like, even when the game detours you a little bit, and it does, because the Devon Goods thing is kind of a detour, but, like, it does shit to detour you that was gonna open up the rest. Like, it was shit you were gonna do anyway, right? You were gonna go up to that route. You were gonna go to that cave anyway because you want to collect Pokemon, right? Or you want to see what's in that cave regardless. So you were gonna go do that stuff regardless of what the game told you to go do, and it just so happens that that helps you progress through the story. I don't really feel that way in Black and White 2, right? There's a lot of you're on your way to a town, or you just enter a town, and the fucking game stops you, gives you story exposition, right, that you don't give a shit about, tells you to go do this thing before you can go do the gym leader, or before you can do this other thing, right? Like, I want to be able to walk into the town and fight the gym leader, and then go do the other stuff, right? The other stuff comes after you beat the gym leader, right? Because my primary objective as a Pokemon player is beat the gyms, right? So when you stop me from doing that and tell me, no, you don't get to do your thing until you go do this other thing, that's really fucking annoying, right? Right? Like, I don't mind doing the other thing after I've beaten the gym leader. But again, that's me just kind of nitpicking for, like, things that aren't really that big of a deal. Again, if you're just one of those people who don't give a fuck about the story, you're just mashing through all of the dialogue, this is fine, right? This is not really that big of a deal. The thing that makes Black and White 2 superior to Black and White, first off, is, like, I think the character design for Black and White 2 is better. Like, the main character that you pick from, Rosa, is, like, one of my favorite designs for a protagonist character, along with Snivy, right? Like, I think that's just, like, a match made in heaven for aesthetics. This game isn't like other third generation games, or, like, third version games, where it's, like, it's the same story, just kind of updated and retold. Like, this is actually a sequel story with its own unique story. It functions more like how Johto functions for Kanto, where it's like a continuation of the story from Kanto. The only difference is there isn't, like, a second region for you to explore. What I think does really help with Black and White 2 is you start in a completely different town. You start in a completely different part of the map. And that really adds to the game feeling like a new game plus kind of thing. I do recommend that you play Black and White 2 before you play, I recommend you play Black and White before you play Black and White 2, just so that you get that kind of experience. I guess you could play, you should probably play Black and White first, because once you play Black and White 2, you're not going to want to play Black and White again. Just because Black and White 2 offers so much. Like, the post game, like, Black and White 2 might have the best post game in terms of, like, story and, like, single story instance content. Depending on who you are, depending on your history with the franchise, Black and White 2 is debatably the best post game. Because it's just a fucking tournament against all of the gym leaders from all of the previous regions, and even some of the champions from the previous regions. And that's really badass and really interesting. Platinum, I think, is the best if it's your first Pokemon game, because the Battle Frontier is, like, not contingent on, like, nostalgia bait, whereas this one is very much, like, that tournament is, like, nostalgia purified or distilled into, you know, a single tournament. But it works, and it's fun, and it's cool, and I wish the games would do more of that, right? Every game, all of the future games after Black and White 2 should have post games that involve gym leaders and protagonists from other games, right? As, like, your reward for beating the region. I don't understand why we stopped doing this after Gen 2, after Johto, where you get to fight Red at the top of what is it, Mount Silver? Whatever. At the end of the game, you fight Red. And it's like, why is that not just a common trope in the Pokemon games, where at the end of the game, the final boss of the game is for you to fight the protagonist from the previous game? Maybe it's because some of the regions aren't interconnected like Johto and Kanto are. But imagine if you were playing Hoenn, right? Gen 3, and the final boss is fucking Gold from Heart Gold and Soul Silver, or from Gold and Silver, right? Like, he just shows up and is like, yo, this region seems kind of cool. What, you're the champion? bet, let me test your skills, right? And you fight him with Pokemon from Generation 3, and he fights you with Pokemon from Generations 1 and 2. Like, that would have been kind of sick. I like that. Same thing with Gen 4, right? Like, Gen 4 should have had a moment where you get to fight Red, where you get to fight Gold, and where you get to fight Brendan or May, right? But, again, that's just nostalgia bait. That's just me talking out my ass. It's one of the reasons why I really like Black 2 and White 2. Also, I almost glossed over this. Black 2 and White 2 have difficulty options. Why the fuck are there not difficulty options in every Pokemon game following Black 2 and White 2? Like, is the game too hard? Play on easy mode. Which, like, no, the game's not too hard. You're out of your mind. Stop that. You're lying to yourself. Is the game too easy? Play on challenge mode. Like, fucking perfection. Why is that not a mainstay feature in the franchise that single-handedly propels Black and White 2 above Black and White and above, like, many of the games in the series? It's just because it has a difficulty selection to make the game more challenging if you want just a little bit more challenge in the game. Alright, but that's enough talking about Gen 5. Gen 5 is fine. I'm really, really looking forward to the Generation 5 remakes, if we ever get them, because, like, knowing Pokemon, like, for some reason, like, you would think, okay, we got Sword and Shield, we got Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, we got Scarlet and Violet, then we got Legend ZA, right? We should be getting Generation 10 next, and then after Gen 10, we should get the Black and White remakes. The problem is, the Black and White remakes are very likely going to be remakes of Pokemon Black and White, not Black 2 and White 2. So it's going to be a remake of the inferior versions of the game, and we're not going to see remakes of Black 2 and White 2. It's not going to have the really cool post-game, right? It's not going to have the difficulty options. I have no faith in this franchise to actually remake Black 2 and White 2. The correct thing to do would be release Black and White remakes, and then release Black 2 and White 2 as DLC updates for Black and White's remakes. That would be the correct option, but they're not going to do that, and I think we all know they're not going to do that. So let's just move on to another game that's, like, kind of depressing and disappointing. That is Generation 6, Pokemon X and Y. X and Y gets a lot of bullshit. X and Y gets a lot of flack for being too easy. I would agree with that for the most part. I think there are some, like, surprisingly challenging trainers that you can run across just as you're playing the game. Like, you're going to come across some trainers that you're like, ooh, what the fuck? Why are you here? Like, this is actually kind of challenging. But, like, they're few and far between. The fact that the game gives you the EXP share, like, and most people don't turn it off because it's a new game, it's a new mechanic. The XP share completely breaks the balance of this game because you just out-level everything. But not too bad. Not as bad as some of the games in some of the later games in the series, right? Like, it actually feels like X and Y was mostly tuned with the XP share in mind. But even then, like, if you do any amount of grinding, if you do any amount of, like, catching a bunch of different Pokemon, fleshing out your team, spending time hunting for Pokemon with specific stats or abilities, any of that kind of shit, because catching Pokemon gives you XP, because the XP share rewards every Pokemon in your party with half of the experience that the lead Pokemon receives, you just start out leveling things like crazy. The game gives you a bunch of gifted Pokemon, right? Like, you get a fucking Lapras, you get one of the Kanto starters, you get your own fucking starter from Kalos, then you get a Mega Lucario as a gift, and it's like, if you use any of that shit, you're just gonna stomp the game, no problem, right? Like, on my first playthrough, that Mega Lucario carried me through so many fucking fights. Any fight that was remotely challenging, I was just like, oh yeah, let me pop Mega Lucario real quick and just shit on them real quick, right? And then that was it. That was basically the whole game, right? And then, of course, like, you get Mega Charizard or some shit like that, and, like, that just shits on everything in the game. So, like, Megas are kind of broken in the sense that, like, not only is your character or is your party over leveled throughout most of the game, but you also have access to Mega Evolution that just makes your Pokemon straight up better than every other Pokemon on the battlefield. That's not also a Mega Evolution, right? So this game desperately needed like a tune-up in terms of its difficulty and balance, but at the same time, you could just choose not to use the Mega Lucario, or you could just choose not to Mega Evolve. But like, that's kind of the marketing thing, right? That's the big appeal for X and Y is Mega Evolution, right? Look at these cool Megas. This is a new gimmick for the franchise for this generation. It feels weird to not use Mega Evolution, right? Real quick, talk about the starters. I love pretty much all of the starters except Chespin. Let me rephrase that. I like Chespin. Chespin is adorable. Greninja is one of my favorite water type Pokemon of all time. Fennekin is adorable, but I don't really like its second or third evolution. Right? I don't know. The whole witch gimmick, right, just feels like this is the start of like the Pokemon being a bit too humanoid for me. Really, I think Greninja being a ninja, being a frog ninja, works. Whereas I think the Fennekin evolution doesn't work for me because it looks too much like a human, right? Like it's trying too hard to be a human witch instead of being like a fox witch, if that makes sense. Like it has a fucking wand for some reason instead of like, okay, Greninja is like all of its features are frog based, right? Its tongue is its scarf, right? That's cool. That's really interesting. It's a way to incorporate the monster element of the Pokemon into its humanoid design. Fennekin, like its evolution is like it's a fox standing on 2 feet, and it just has a magic wand that it uses to cast its spells. It's like that's just like no, no, I don't like it as much. Unironically, I actually think it would have been kind of cool if it was like on its 4 legs and it like took the wand out of its tails, right, and used the wand in its mouth or something like that, and then put the wand back with its mouth into its tails, right? Something like that. Make it more monster-like. Chespin also has the same problem, right? Dreadnought is just like a human turtle, right, hunched over, right? Like I don't like it. It's too humanoid. But again, Chespin by itself, adorable. I love Chespin, but its evolutions are trash. Let's see what else. Oh, this is like the first. This is one of the first games outside of like Generation 3 where I guess Generation 4 had this too. Where your gender, right, like the gender that you don't pick is an actual character, whether it's Callum or Serena, and I really like that because it like gives you personality. Like you have a personality for the character that you don't pick, I guess is the way that I'm trying to word this, right? Like your character has a canon personality, or there's like actual lines of dialogue for your character if you're playing as a different gender, if that makes sense, right? Like your character is not this like blank slate that doesn't have any like emotions or anything to say about specific situations. Like you can actually see what their thoughts and personality is if you pick a different gender, and I think that that's kind of cool. The region itself, I like Kalos as a region. Maybe it's because it's mostly like it's going for that 3D aesthetic, but Kalos feels like what Gen 5 was trying to go for. It's just that it actually captures the Pokemon visual aesthetic better, in my opinion, right? Like Kalos has city environments and like urban environments, but it still keeps that like almost Studio Ghibli level of like one with nature elements of the Pokemon franchise, right? Like nature, it doesn't feel like humans and urbanization have overtaken nature. It feels like they coexist in Generation 6. Whereas in Generation 5, it feels much more like urbanization has overtaken nature in that generation. I also think that like Generation 6 is just brighter, right? It's more, the sun is out a bit more, right? Whereas Generation 5 feels kind of muddy. It feels cloudy for the most part, and kind of dark and dreary. Not dark is in like tonal, just dark is in like the color palette is kind of dark. Uh, Generation 6 doesn't really have that problem. This is also the first generation where we go full 3D. Um, I'm not a fan. I actually think the games were much better when they were 2D sprites. Yeah, I'm one of those guys. Uh, totally understand if you like the 3. And listen, when this first came out, the 3D models were great, right? I was like, cool, I get to see these Pokemon in 3D. But they're so fucking static most of the time, like unmoving. Like they really need more idle animations for these Pokemon, right? Like when they're just standing there not doing anything, they need to have 3 or 4 different idle animations that they kind of cycle through to show personality, instead of just standing there like fucking robots, like lifeless husks. I talked about difficulty already. The gym leaders are, man, the gym leaders are really fucking easy in this generation. Like you have like bug, grass. Dude, it's been so long since I played X and Y that I don't even remember what the other gym leaders are. I don't. As far as I can recall, the Elite Four is also a fucking joke in this generation. The champion is like relatively easy. Yeah, the game is just easy. That's like the main complaint you're gonna see for X and Y is the game is too fucking easy. There's also a lot of like Generation 1 nostalgia in this game, which if you're not a big fan of that, this is probably gonna rub you the wrong way. Let's talk about rivals. So I actually think this game has like fun companions or rivals. The fact that you're kind of in a group of, like you're with a group of students for the most part, or a group of assistants for the lab, or for the professor, I think is really interesting. I like that they all kind of have their own personalities. I like that they all kind of do their own thing. Like they're not, you have one that's going for the gyms. You have one that's just kind of exploring the region and having a good time and seeing cute Pokemon. You have one that wants to like dance. You have one that does research with Pokemon. Like it's nice to have that different like perspective on how people engage and interact with Pokemon, right, in the Pokemon world. And I think that's kind of cute and interesting. Even if their personalities don't really get completely fleshed out. But, I mean, it's a Pokemon game. Like, what do you expect? In fact, if they dedicated any more time to these characters, I probably would complain about it. So, maybe it's a good thing that they don't. I think it's kind of cute that... I don't remember her name, but the one with the pigtails, right? Who, kind of... You see her the most, right? The fact that, like, there's a moment where it's like, aw, like, maybe she has a little crush on you, right? And that kind of thing. Like, that's adorable. That's cute. It'd be nice if Pokemon games did, you know, a little more shit like that. Really, like, let you connect with the companions. Kind of like a confidant system from the Persona games. Like, if you're gonna put this much emphasis on your companions or on your friends, quotations, in these Pokemon games, like, give me a confidant system. Let me level up my relationship with these characters. Let me get some rewards for like spending time with the characters or doing their side quests and stuff like that. But like we don't double down, we don't focus on that kind of shit, and it's kind of annoying and lame. But I'm not gonna hold it too much against X and Y because X and Y never got a 3rd generation, and I think now, hold on, put a pin in that for like 1 second. We'll come back to that, I promise. Before we move on to Z, right, which is a game that should have came out, I want to really quick talk about Super Training and Pokemon and Me and Affection, right? So this is the first game that introduces like the Pokemon and Me system, Super Training, and the Affection mechanic. So the way Affection works is the more you level up your Pokemon, or the more like you pet your Pokemon and feed them stuff and play with them in Pokemon the more affection your Pokemon has towards you. Not friendship, affection. Friendship is a mechanic that's existed, since Gen 3? Gen 3 or 4? And it's what you use. Actually, it might be since Generation 2, right? Because you have Eevee evolving into Umbreon and Espeon, I think, with high enough friendship. And I think the baby Pokemon evolve with high enough friendship. So I believe it was introduced in Generation 2. But friendship is leveled up simply by not letting your Pokemon faint, feeding it things like proteins, carbos, PP ups, right? Those kinds of things. Feeding it rare candies, leveling the Pokemon up, and not letting it faint. I think I actually mentioned not letting it faint already. And then of course just like keeping it in your party will like gradually level up the Pokemon's friendship mechanic. Outside of that, right? Outside of you being used as like a mechanic for the move return, and outside of being used as an evolution mechanic, friendship really doesn't do anything in base Pokemon games. Affection, on the other hand, does do stuff. Pokemon with a high affection level will just shake off status effects randomly, right? Like the Pokemon gets put to sleep, the Pokemon gets paralyzed. 1 or 2 turns later, it'll just shake off the status element. It'll just be like, yeah, because I love you so much, I'm just gonna cure myself. The Pokemon will have a higher crit rate, right? Sometimes it'll just land a crit because it loved you so much. Or a move that would one-hit KO your Pokemon, sometimes the Pokemon will just hang on with 1 HP just because it loves you so much. There are people who are going to tell you that they hate that mechanic because it makes the game too easy, and I do agree. Affection makes the game way easier, but I kind of like the affection mechanic because it's centered around the idea of like caring for your Pokemon and developing a strong bond with your Pokemon, and I like that shit. So I like it from a thematic standpoint, and I like it from a gameplay standpoint. The problem is that the game is already too easy, and this is just one additional mechanic to make the game even easier. So I think a version of X and Y that is built with the XP share in mind and with this affection mechanic in mind that like isn't afraid to throw more difficult challenges at you, or I guess you could say a version of the game that had difficulty options where trainers have higher levels, or trainers use EVs and IVs, right? Or trainers just have stronger moves or more intimidating teams. That could have actually made the affection mechanic really useful and really fun to mess around with, because it's just like, it's a thing that separates your trainer from other trainers, is you bond with your Pokemon so well, and that's what helps you overcome some of the more difficult challenges. So again, I don't wholly think the affection mechanic is like a bad thing. I just think in a game that's already too easy, you've made the game even easier with affection. Super training. This is another reason why the game is like piss fucking easy, because from the very moment you get your starter, you can just super train it and give it EVs in whatever you want. Now, I actually think that's a based mechanic. I think it's a great mechanic that they added to the game, because if you want to grind, if you want your Pokemon to be better, it's up to you to control the EVs of your Pokemon, right? It's the first, like, I didn't even know that EVs existed until this game, until X and Y. That's when I found out that EVs and IVs were a thing. Was because I was like, what the fuck does super training do? Like, this just increases my Pokemon's stats? Like, that's crazy. And then I found out, no, there's a stat cap because of EVs and IVs, or because of EVs, you can only get a certain amount in one stat, and you can only really max out like 2 stats with additional stat points, etc., right? Like, it's a cool mechanic that the game never actually teaches you about, because the game has no reason to teach you about it, because the games are always like so easy that they don't really matter. Like, this is why if you stick with your starter from beginning to end, your starter just kind of shits on everything in the game, because you've done so many battles with the starter that the starter has a bunch of EVs, and most starter Pokemon are like they ship out with decent IVs anyway. Like they're programmed to have good IVs, so you have a bunch of EVs because you use the starter throughout the whole game. So your starter just has better stats than everything, even if you're on the same level, because enemy Pokemon don't get EVs in most of these games. So having the ability to just train your EVs from the start would have been a fantastic choice if the game were a bit more challenging, right? If the game offered a bit more challenge. Now, I imagine for like competitive, this is a fantastic change, right? Because if you want to train up a competitively viable Pokemon, you don't have to go sit there and grind random wild Pokemon anymore. You can just load up Super Training and just play Super Training for what, 30 minutes or something like that, and boom, all of your Pokemon is level trained in EVs. Fantastic stuff. Sorry, I had to take a quick sip of water. So yeah, I love the EV, or I love the super training system. I really hope they bring something like that back in future games, especially if they bring some kind of like difficulty modifier or like difficulty system to the future games. Last but not least, let's actually talk about Pokemon and Me. Um, bro, why is this like? This is kind of a mainstay because every game after this has something similar to it. Uh, just being able to pet your fucking Pokemon. That's it. That's all it is. Being able to pet them and being able to feed them, like little treats and shit like that. That's always a great time. Like, again, this is a feature that should never be removed from Pokemon games moving forward. I would actually prefer if there was like more depth to Pokemon and Me. Like, you know, maybe this is asking a bit too much given how many Pokemon exist, but specific training or like specific play mini games for specific types of Pokemon, like electric types have their own training mode or like or mini game that you can play with them. Fire types have their own mini game you can play with them, right? That kind of thing I think would be really cool and interesting. Just more mini games and more toys that you can play with the Pokemon with would be a fantastic, addition. Giving me something similar to like the Chow Garden from Sonic Adventure, right? Where it's just like a little area you can go to. You can pick up the small Pokemon. You can actually like hold them and pet them, like right with your character in real time using the character's model. Petting the Pokemon that are like bigger than you. A great example is like Pal World, right? In Pal World, there's just a pet Pokemon button, right? There's just a pet Pal button in the game. And the ones that are like really small, you kneel down and you pet them. The ones that are really big, you like rub their back or something like that, right? Why does the actual mainline Pokemon games not have something like that? Instead, it's like your little finger, right? You use the touch screen or some shit like that to pet the Pokemon, and like you pet individual parts of the Pokemon. Why not have both, right? Is maybe my suggestion. But anyway, that's about it for X and Y. Like the biggest thing with X and Y is this generation desperately needed a middle game, right? It needed the third version, and we just never got it. It needed Pokemon Z, and instead we get Pokemon ZA, which it's all the way at the end. We'll talk about it when we get there, but it's like there are parts of Kalos that just you never get to explore, like the power plant in the distance. You never actually get to go to. The post game for Kalos feels really underdeveloped. Like there's the whole thing with Looker, like the Looker missions, and like those are cool, but like they only last for so long. And then there's the whole battle chateau, I think, or the battle mansion that you get to go do, and that's like piss easy, bare bones, fucking absolute nothing burger. When you do it, it's like it's so underdeveloped, right? Like as much as I think X and Y are fun experiences, if you just want to play through the main story and beat the Elite Four, I think you'll have a fine time. Hence why I put it in A tier, right? If you're just looking for a casual experience, just play through the story, beat the Elite Four, collect some Pokemon, use Mega Evolution, that kind of thing, it's fine. But as an actual Pokemon experience on par with like Platinum, I think the game lacks so much because its post game is just terrible. And I really think that could have been fixed with a fourth or with a third version. Like Pokemon Z probably would have been the best game in the franchise. If they nailed the post game, it might have been the best game in the franchise, right? Give me some difficulty options. Uh, Give me an interesting post game. Give me like the Battle Frontier or something like that. Let me fight previous Pokemon protagonists. Expand the region just a little bit more and remix the story. Oh, I didn't even talk about the games. What is it? Evil Team Flare. Team Flare is like a nothing burger, right? The main antagonist is interesting. Which forgive me because I don't remember his name. But the guy with the red hair and the fancy suit, right? Who wants to like, what does he want to do? He wants to use Xernetis and Yveltal to like destroy the world. It's one of those, right? Or something like that. It's been like 15 years since I played that game. And then you have like AZ shows up and he's got the fucking Floette and he uses like energy from super weapon to like wipe out a bunch of Pokemon to revive his Floette and all this shit. Like the story is there. There's some depth there. There's some interesting themes and like concepts there. Some actually surprisingly dark shit in a Pokemon game with the whole AZ storyline. But again, like I was a kid mashing through this shit. I was checked out of Pokemon stories by this point. And it would have been really nice to see this like fully fleshed out and expanded upon in a third version, right? In the third game. But we didn't get it. And we likely will never get it, right? I really hope, like at this point, we have Legends ZA out in the Gen 5 remakes, or like the next remakes that are next up in line. So you have that question, are we even going to get a Kalos remake like in the future? Because we already got Legends ZA, like would they even care to do a Kalos remake at that point? I don't know. The Pokemon company is fucking up in the air and crazy and hard to nail down with the decisions that they make. So, whatever. Moving forward, again, I think to end off my thoughts on X and Y, I think it's underrated. I think it's overhated. And I think if you went back and played it now, especially given the state of Pokemon in its current state, this game is completely passable, right? It's totally fine. It's a good experience. You're not going to hate it or anything like that. Even if it is a bit on the easy side. Okay, another Gen 6 game is Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. So, it's a good thing this video is so long, because I don't even fully remember what I was saying about Ruby and Sapphire originally. But I would actually put Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire in A tier, right? I'd put it up there with Black and White, Emerald, and X and Y. I think it's better than X and Y, and I think it's better than Emerald version, which kind of divisive depending on who you ask about that. I think Emerald version is more challenging, so if you're looking for something that's challenging, you definitely want to play Emerald over Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby. But I like a lot of the features that are introduced in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. The Pokénav is such an interesting device, and it's one of those. This is like one of those moments where like you realize that the Pokemon Company introduces, or Game Freak introduces, really useful and interesting gadgets and gizmos or gimmicks in Pokemon games, and then they don't fucking show up in later entries in the series, even though they're incredibly useful and fun. The Pokénav is one of those things. Why the fuck is the Pokénav not in every game after Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire? It's such a good mechanic. You can search for Pokemon that have egg moves, and I think even their hidden abilities, right? Through chaining with the Pokénav. Fantastic. It gives you a reason to go out there and grind and hunt for wild Pokemon, right? But for some reason, we just threw the concept. I think Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl have something similar to it, but that's about it. It's just depressing. Just depressing what this franchise does sometimes. But for that reason alone, I think Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are more fun to play than they're definitely more fun to play than regular Ruby and Sapphire, and I think they're more interesting games than Emerald version, just for that reason. Just because you can like team build in a way that you really can't do in many of the older games. This version of the game also has the physical special split. This version of the game has fairy typing, right? Which is really fun and interesting. So it's definitely like, if you're gonna play Gen 3, you choose between these two, right? Do you want something more challenging, but maybe a bit more archaic, right? Like it's uh, a bit less user friendly. There's less quality of life things in it, but you're okay with that. You can play Pokemon Emerald version. If you want to experience Gen 3, if you want to experience the region, but you want to do it in a way that's similar to modern Pokemon games, you would play Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. And I still think Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are fun games and good games, and you should play them. Even if they're lacking the Battle Frontier, which is like inexcusable in my opinion. This is a remake. It's supposed to be the definitive version of the games, and you don't have the fucking Battle Frontier. It's just insanity that we don't have the Battle Frontier in this game. It's so it makes me so angry, because this should be the definitive version of the game. This should be a fucking slam dunk. It shouldn't even be a contest whether or not you play this over Emerald version. But they miss out with the Battle Frontier. I actually think they do a lot of good things here, right? Like including Rayquaza in the like post game. So it does still feel like it incorporates elements of Emerald version into this version of the game. But we fucking missed the Battle Frontier. It's like that's what you need to do for the post game. Like that's what adds longevity to these games. So like, I don't know. I don't know if it's that these games get rushed. I don't know if it's that they don't give a fuck. I don't know. But basically everything I said about Emerald version and Ruby and Sapphire version, for the most part, apply to this, right? The region looks much better because it's, in 3D now, which is always nice. I think the Pokemon look bland because they're in 3D, which is counterintuitive to what I just said about the game being in 3D, and therefore it looks nice. The overworld looks nice. The 3D models for the Pokemon at this point look a little bland now, right? Because again, they're just static and they don't really move. This adds a little bit more to Wally's character, which is kind of nice to see. Some locations are slightly changed. This version of the game includes Mega Evolution, which is very nice because all of the starters, right, all of the Gen 3 starters get Mega Evolutions, which is really cool. I actually wish that moving forward, all remakes incorporated Mega Evolutions, because it's a great way to kind of put a new spin on the region where Pokemon that were bad get Mega Evolutions to make up for the fact that they're bad, right? Or Pokemon that felt kind of underdeveloped get Mega Evolutions added to them. Or just giving Mega Evolutions to the starters, right? Give them something completely new and interesting. Like Trico, for instance, or Sceptile in this case, gets a Mega Evolution that makes it Dragon type, right? So it's Grass Dragon. That actually gives it a unique identity and niche that it didn't have in Emerald version. Now, I believe the Mega Evolution actually makes it slower, so depending on who you ask, it's actually worse than base Sceptile, but I think it looks cool, so fuck you. Mega Swampert, I'm not a big fan of, because it's just like big, bulky fist man that punches you and uses Earthquake for maximum damage. Like, Swampert just breaks that game over its... Like, Swampert breaks Gen 3 over its fucking knee. No problem. Blaziken got a Mega Evolution that it didn't really need. So, it's like... It looks cool, though, so I'm not gonna argue, right? I love Mega Evolution, so... I'm fucking biased. What do you want to hear? Would have been nice to see some other Megas, right? Like, Mega Mightyena would have been kind of cool. Because Mightyena is a little undercooked, if you ask me, as a Pokemon. Mega Magcargo, Mega... What's the other one? What's the other one? Camerupt? Mega Camerupt? Actually, we did get Mega Camerupt, right? I'm almost certain Camerupt gets a Mega Evolution. I could be wrong though. But yeah, that kind of thing. Overall, fine remakes, just missing the post game stuff. And again, if you're gonna play Gen 3, you probably just want to play this one. All right, let's move on to what I believe is actually like from this moment onwards. I'm gonna be honest with you. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are the last game that I like actively recommend to people. Everything else that we're about to talk about drops in quality significantly, and it starts with the second F tier in the series, Sun and Moon. I've been waiting to talk about this shit for so long. I fucking hate these games. Like, people want to say Legend ZA is the worst game in the franchise, and I'm like, you don't know ball, bro. Like, you have not played enough Pokemon games if you think that's the worst the franchise has to offer. This game, oh my god, I can't put into words. I'll try how much I fucking hate Sun and Moon. So, the main problem with Sun and Moon is it takes the issue that Black and White and White 2 have, and it cranks that shit up to 11. It is a yap fest. It never fucking stops. Like, every 2 seconds, every 3 steps you take in this game is a fucking cutscene that just pulls control away from you. And the difference is, at least in Black and White, at least in Gen 5, the game opens up and lets you like run around for a little while after you do some things, right? Like, pretty much by like the 4th gym, you have a little bit more autonomy to kind of just experience the region, and you're not being stopped every 3 seconds, right? In this game, no. From start to finish, every island you go to, like, you think, okay, we moved on to a new island, maybe the game is going to take the fucking training wheels off, and I'm actually just going to get to explore the island, and the tutorials are over, and it's not going to hold my hand anymore. No, every island, from start to finish, the game treats you like you're fucking retarded, and it's so annoying to deal with. Like, it just never stops being like, hey, you're going the wrong way, go this way, right? No, the story is this way. You want to hear the story, right? You want to experience the story, right? It's like, no, I don't fucking care. I don't. And like, the sad thing is, the story with like Lily and her mother in the Aether Foundation, it's actually like kind of interesting, but it's forced down your throat for the whole game. Well, actually, like, the interesting part isn't given to you until like the 6th island or something like that. Until like near the very end of the game does the story actually get interesting. For most of it, it's just, oh, Team Skull did the thing, go stop Team Skull from doing thing, or hey, help me out with this thing that I need help with, thanks, you're a really strong trainer, right? Or go fight this guy who has like 2 Pokemon and you just shit on him, and it's like, wow, you're really competent and strong, and it's like, dude, stop treating me like I'm fucking 10. Which is how old your character is typically in these games. But I don't know. Like, this was the first Pokemon game in the main series that I bought, sat down to play, and never finished. Like, I actively quit playing the game for like 4 or 5 years. I was like, I'm done. Like, I can't put up with this shit. Like, it's so boring. It's so obnoxious. And it's so fucking easy. It doesn't help that there's no gyms. It doesn't help that the characters aren't really all that interesting outside of like Lily and her mother and her brother. Those are like the only interesting fucking characters. It doesn't help that the game moves at a snail's pace. Everyone fucking walks around like they have mud in their shoes. It doesn't help that the game's fucking ugly if you're not playing it on an emulator. It is a miserable experience, and there's so much dialogue. They talk so fucking much in the game, and they don't say anything interesting. It's an abysmal experience. I fucking hate this game. That being said, I actually think Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon are much better games. I wouldn't put Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon in A tier, but I would put it in B tier. You play Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon for the post game. That's it. That's the only. That's really the only reason I think that this game is worth playing. I guess I should probably bring up the totem Pokemon. The totem Pokemon are actually like challenging, but they're challenging in a way that's bullshit and not consistent with the rest of the franchise, right? Like you're basically fighting a beefed up super boss, right? That is a Pokemon. In the same way that like I'll get to it with Scarlet and Violet, but Scarlet and Violet has something similar, and I don't like it there either, because like I don't play a Pokemon game to play an MMO, right? I don't play a Pokemon game to play a Final Fantasy game. I don't want to fight a super boss that is designed to be beaten with 6 Pokemon. I want to fight a gym leader or another trainer who is using tactics similar to what I could use or better to challenge me on equal terms. And the totem Pokemon do not do that. For instance, totem Pokemon can just straight up call in assistance from other Pokemon. Now it's a 2v1. Get fucked, right? Like, now you just have to fight 2 other Pokemon or 2 Pokemon instead of 1. Totem Pokemon also can hit really fucking hard. They also have a lot of HP, right? You can't hit them with like status effects and shit like that. Like it's a no fuck you. You don't get to engage with most of the systems of the game because we want the boss fight to be challenging and we don't want you to just cheese it. But like, you should reward me for knowing the mechanics enough to cheese the fucking boss if I want to cheese it with like status effects and stuff like that. So yeah, like I'm not a big fan of totem Pokemon. I would have much preferred gyms. I think that the puzzles quotation, right? The trials for the totem Pokemon in the different what the fuck do they call them? I think they're just called island trials, right? Or island challenges, whatever. I think those suck ass. I hate them. The actual fights against the Kahunas. Am I saying that right? I might not be. I don't know. Like the main people of the island that you fight, those are kind of interesting and fun, if still on a bit of the easy side. The Elite Four for the region is also kind of like fun and interesting. And to be fair, I think Sun and Moon had really interesting ideas, right? Like originally you were going to be able to like start your own gyms in this game. Like when you look at some of the cut content for Sun and Moon had the potential to be some of the best games in the series, but between like not having voice acting, so I don't give a fuck about the story, railroading the fuck out of you, yapping at you and just saying nothing of interest or of substance, the game's looking kind of ugly on the 3DS particularly. I think the games look fine on emulator. Between the games having like pointless fucking cutscenes, between the games departing from the standard gym formula, right? Like there's so much in these games that I just don't like, and not enough that they added to make the games better, that I can't really recommend them. Z moves, right? I don't give a fuck about. They're just big, strong, hit hard moves. It's just no, bad. Stop it. Never make another Pokemon game like Sun and Moon ever again. The only redeeming quality of Generation 7 is the post game of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, where you get to fight like all of the different previous evil teams for the most part. Like they're all working together. And Giovanni is like the last main boss fight. And like Red and Blue show up, right? That shit is cool as fuck. That's awesome. But the fact that you have to sit through 10, 15, 20 hours of bullshit to get to that point, completely unacceptable, right? Now, again, like I said, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon are a little more interesting. The story is a little more interesting than standard Sun and Moon. They kind of streamline some of the more stupid shit in base Sun and Moon. The boss fights are like way more difficult in Ultra Sun and Ultra. Like Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon are like genuinely kind of challenging, if you don't know what you're doing, right? Like these, out of all of the Pokemon games, these are some of the more difficult ones. But again, it's just everything else that you have to sit through to get to that point is just fucking hell in a handbasket. So if you have to play Gen 6, if you have to play Gen 7, play Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Stay far, far fucking away from standard Sun and Moon. I wouldn't wish playing this shit on my worst enemies. That's how bad I think Sun and Moon is. Like, honestly, I think these games should just be straight up removed from the franchise. Like never sell these again. Like, treat this shit like Sonic 06 and just act like it never happened if you can do that. If you can do that, that would be even better. Okay, moving on. Oh, thank God, we actually get to talk about a good game. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. This is A tier. It's a good game. It's cute. It's adorable. It's fun. It's Kanto, right? You can't fuck up Kanto. Come on, let's be honest. The only thing that I don't like about Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee is that random battles in this game have been replaced with the Let's Go catch mechanic. That's it. You don't battle wild Pokemon. You just catch them. And this kind of like to like give you an idea of like my mentality with this franchise, right? Like, I think the appeal of this franchise is picking a team, picking picking Pokemon that you want to travel with, using those Pokemon in battle, in like actually seeing how they perform in battle, using them in key moments, like fighting a tough trainer, swapping into your Raichu, and your Raichu thunderbolting and winning you the fight. Like, that makes you connect with that Raichu, right? You're like, that Raichu won me that fight. We wouldn't have won without you. Like, that kind of thing is what makes you develop a bond with the Pokemon. As stupid as that sounds, because it's a fucking 2D sprite on a screen. But you know what I mean, right? Like that's the energy that the franchise is built on, right? Is those moments. And Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee kind of take some of that away, because wild Pokemon, you don't actually battle with your Pokemon with them, right? So you only really use your Pokemon in gym leaders or trainer battles, and that's less, like, there's some impact there, but it's like you don't really feel like your Pokemon earned the levels that they have, right? Because they didn't actually battle anything. They don't have experience fighting other Pokemon, because you just gain experience from catching Pokemon. So when your Raichu learns Thunderbolt or Evolve, or your Pikachu, that's not a good example because Pikachu evolves with a Thunderstone. When your Charmander evolves into Charizard and learns Flamethrower, you're like, he didn't do that because he learned from battles and gained experience fighting Pokemon. He did that because I effectively just gave him a shit ton of rare candies, and he just evolved because of the game's mechanics instead of him evolving through learning from battle and becoming stronger, right? So that's kind of like my main critique of Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Also, again, I mentioned this before, but it needs to be restated. The partner Pokemon in this game is fucking busted. Pikachu and Eevee, the ones you get as your starter, are broken, and they can carry you through the rest of the game. This is baby's first Pokemon game. If you've never played a Pokemon game, or you're like 8 and you can't read and you just want to just like see something cute and play a Pokemon game, this is like the easiest Pokemon game you could give to a kid. It doesn't hold your hand and railroad you like Sun and Moon does. It's Kanto, so there's very little of that shit. It's just go do the gyms, go beat Team Rocket, and you can literally just shit on everything with your starter if you want. And the starter is cute, and you can dress the starter up in different costumes and shit like that, so you don't even really mind that you can just shit on the whole game with the starter. Like, this is very clearly meant to be a cute, fun little Pokemon romp through Generation 1. So I have much less venom towards this one than I do towards an actual generation, because, you know, like, being set in a new region, I want to be immersed in the new region. I want to actually feel immersed in the story and in like the conflict that's going on. I want to take the game seriously. Whereas when it's a remake or like a reimagining like this, I'm totally fine with that being kind of tailored towards a different audience or being a different experience, because if I ever want to actually experience full Kanto, I can go do that with Fire Red and Leaf Green instead of doing it with this version of the game. That being said, this is still a completely passable way to experience Generation 1, if I'm being completely honest with you. I hate the fact that it gets rid of abilities. I hate the fact that it gets rid of held items, because why, right? Like, just for the sake of it being an authentic Generation 1 experience, but it's not really an authentic Generation 1 experience because you don't battle wild Pokemon, and like the Zubat Roost, not the Zubat Roost, the cave where you fight through a bunch of Zubats and have to fight the Fossil Trainer and Team Rocket, like the difficulty of that experience is lost because you don't battle wild Pokemon. So your team doesn't get whittled down. So your team enters every fight maxed leveled, right, with max PP, max HP, right? They're over leveled as fuck probably because the XP share exists. So you just shit on everything. What can I sound like an old man just complaining that everything's too fucking easy. I hate everything that's new. Nothing is good anymore, right? Like, I don't even feel that way. I think the game is fun. It's just, or I think it's cute, and I think it can be fun, but it's just not challenging. And a Pokemon game doesn't necessarily have to be challenging to be enjoyable. Like, for instance, this game has ride Pokemon. You can just ride on the back of a Ponyta, or ride on the back of an Arcanine, and that's badass, and that's cool, and I like that. More Pokemon games need to do that. So, like, all is forgiven for the most part, just because I can do that. And of course, the partner Pokemon is cute, so who cares? I'm a part of the fucking problem. Like, I like Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee so much that I don't understand why we haven't gotten a Let's Go Johto, right? Let's Go Celebi, or Let's Go, what the fuck? Let's Go Lugia and Let's Go Ho-Oh, right? Like, why haven't we gotten that? Or Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee 2. If I'm just being completely honest with you. Let's Go Umbreon, Let's Go Espeon. Where it's just Johto in the Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee style. That would be fantastic. Because I love Johto, and I would love an opportunity to replay Johto with the art style and design philosophy of the Let's Go of Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. But instead, we got fucking Pokemon Legends EA. So there goes that, I guess. Real quick, one thing I forgot to mention about Pokemon Sun and Moon, because I was too busy shitting on the games because I hate them, is regional forms were introduced in that game, and my thoughts on regional forms. So, I like regional forms. I know that some people really don't like regional forms because they think it's fucking lazy to just take a Pokemon that was already made and just remix the Pokemon. And it's just like, you already took something that's good and you just changed it a little bit so it's still good because the base designs are really good. My only problem with regional forms is that they're so Gen 1 centered. I would have much preferred, like, I think regional forms should go to Pokemon that are actively weak and need buffs, right? Or Pokemon that feel like underdeveloped. I think a great example is like Linoon getting the regional variation of Obstagoon from Sword and Shield. I think Obstagoon is a really cool Pokemon. It's a cool looking Pokemon. It's a fucking weird looking Pokemon, but it's cool, right? I think Galarian Zigzagoon is just a cool looking fucking Pokemon. So, you know, like, I don't really have any problem with that. Stuff like Mightyena, right? Like, why has Mightyena not gotten a regional form? That Pokemon desperately needs a third evolution or regional form. And also, like, one of my favorite Pokemon ever of all time is Alolan Raichu. Because look at him. He's adorable. Surfing on his little tail thing. You know, like, how do you not like this? Come on. But then you look at something like Alolan Dugtrio, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see why people don't like regional forms. But I don't know. I like them. I think if they're done right, regional forms are really cool. Again, just stop doing Kanto stuff and do regional forms for a bunch of different Pokemon, and it's all good, right? Now, would I take regional forms over Mega Evolution? Yeah, for the most part. The problem with Mega Evolution is you're limited to one per team because of how Mega Evolution works. And you also have to, like, shoehorn the Mega Stones and stuff like that into the actual, like, story of the game in order for Mega Evolution to work in the game. So I actually think regional forms is just, they're just a more natural way to do what I think Mega Evolution already accomplishes, which is just remix existing Pokemon in new and interesting ways. So yeah, keep doing regional forms. Regional forms are good. Just stop doing Kanto. All right. With that said, we get to the second major stinker of the franchise, Sword and Shield. Sword and Shield also, the more I see Sword and Shield and Sun and Moon in F tier, the more I feel bad for putting Gold and Silver in F tier. I'm gonna move Gold and Silver to D tier. It's nowhere near as bad as Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield. Sword and Shield and Sun and Moon are like two of the worst games in the franchise. I actively think these are the two worst games in the franchise. I think you should stay far, far away from both of these two games. So, bro, I don't even know where to fucking start with Sword and Shield. The region is a fucking straight line. There is no exploration in this region. It is just go from city to city, point A to point B. The only area of exploration is the wild area. Like here is a pocket of exploration. Go explore this giant circle and collect some Pokemon here, and that's it. Now, mind you, when Sword and Shield first released, right, the wild area was kind of revolutionary, right? It was kind of really interesting because it was the first time we actually got to see Pokemon just like walk around in the open world and like battle them and touch them in real time, that kind of thing. So it was cool. But it's not enough to save the problems that this game fucking has. Right? Oh, I don't think I talked about how like the actual I don't want to spend any more time talking about Sun and Moon. The rival in Sun and Moon is trash. I like How more than I like Hop, but Hop is just How 2.0. Lily is fine. Her brother is fine. Her mother is fun, and that's about it. That's all I have to say about the NPCs. Every other NPC in the game is dog shit, and I hate them. Moving on. That's what I have to say about the rivals for Sun and Moon. Oh, sorry. One other thing about Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. It remixes the rivals, right? So you don't actually have Blue as your rival. You're not Red. You meet Red and Blue as you play through the game. In fact, Blue is the 8th gym leader instead of Giovanni. Like, that's something that's really interesting about Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, and hence why I don't consider it to be a remake of Pokemon Yellow. While it incorporates elements of Yellow, such as including Team Rocket, it's not quite Pokemon Yellow because, Blue is there instead of Giovanni and stuff like that. Hence why, I still think we should get a remake of Pokemon Yellow at some point. But anyway, back to Sword and Shield and why Sword and Shield is trash. Bro, if you want an actual in-depth explanation of why Sword and Shield is really bad, go watch Radical Soda's 9-hour-long video shitting on Sword and Shield. But the graphics are terrible, the performance is fucking bad, the level scaling is oh my god. So this game introduces Dynamax as its gimmick, right? Instead of Mega Evolution. So we lost Mega Evolution for Dynamax, by the way, in Gigantamax. Dynamax is just squash and stretch the Pokemon, make it really big and make it really chunky, and it now has a bunch of HP and it hits harder, right? That's it. That's all that Dynamax does. You also cannot use Dynamax in standard Pokemon battles. You have to use it either in a Dynamax raid den or you have to use it in a gym battle specifically, right? So the problem with the Dynamax thing is you enter the wild area and they're like, hey, go check out these raid dens because this is the main gimmick of the game is Dynamax. So you go to the raid dens, you fight Dynamax Pokemon, you can catch Dynamax Pokemon, and these Pokemon give you rare candies and XP candies and berries and TMs and stuff like that. Because by the way, we made TMs not reusable in this game, right? Right? No, they're TRs in this game, right? There's TMs and then TRs. TRs are not reusable, but TMs are. And I guess I forgot to mention that in Gen 5, I believe, is when we made TMs reusable. And then Gen 6 had them reusable. Gen 7 has them reusable. And this is the first game that we backtrack on this shit. And now some of the TMs aren't reusable, but most of them are. It's fucking annoying. I hate it. Stop changing the rules, Pokemon. But so the problem is that you're like, oh, cool, let me go engage with the new cool mechanic, right? By the way, for this game, the XP share can't be turned off. So you are just always going to be over leveled because your teammates are always going to be getting a bunch of fucking levels, right? A shit ton of levels. So, or a shit ton of XP. So you go do the Dynamax raid dens, right? And then you get all of these rewards, and you're like, cool, XP candies. What are these? So you use the XP candies, maybe on like your starter or something like that. And now you're like 5-10 levels higher than everything else in the game, and then it just snowballs. It's a snowball effect where your teammates just never stop being over leveled because you can't turn the XP share off. So even if you're like, okay, well, let me not use my starter that I use the XP candies on because I didn't really know what the XP candies, like, I knew kind of what they did, but I didn't expect it to completely fucking shatter the difficulty of the game. So let me just put my starter in the back so that he doesn't get a bunch of XP. But because XP share is always on and my teammates are always going to get half the XP of the main person who fought, my starter is always going to continue to be overleveled throughout the rest of the game, and then you just shit on everything in the game, and the game has no difficulty, and it's too fucking easy, and then it's boring, and then you don't want to play it anymore. That's like the gist of what's wrong with Sword and Shield. On top of it being boring to traverse, on top of the story being uninteresting, on top of it having the same fucking problems that Sun and Moon have, where the game railroads you, you walk 2 steps, and then the game tells you, no, come this way, the story is this way, what are you doing? You want to explore? You want to play a Pokemon game? You actually just want to go be autonomous and do random other shit in the game and just have fun? No, you don't get to do that. We're Pokemon. You're going to do the thing that we want you to go do, and then maybe, if you're good, if you're lucky, we'll let you go explore the wild area and catch a bunch of different Pokemon. But if you go catch a bunch of different Pokemon, you're going to be over-leveled, and then you're going to shit on the rest of the game, and you're going to be bored, and then you're not going to want to play the game anymore. Like, it's like they designed a bunch of different shit, and they were like, this sounds cool, this will be fun, and then they didn't realize how putting all of those things together makes the game less enjoyable, right? For instance, the wild area, like I just breezed through. The wild area is cool. You want to go catch all of the different Pokemon in the wild area because this is the first game in the franchise where you can actually see them wander around. So you're like, oh shit, that's a Zigzagoon, right? I want to go catch that. That looks cool, right? Or that's a Magikarp chilling in the water. Like, let me go catch that, right? So then, like, in your brain, if you're like me, right, or you're like anyone who loves Pokemon and like the motto of gotta go catch them all, you're like, I can actually see all of the Pokemon that I'm missing in the Pokedex. Like, let me just be in the wild area for 5 minutes or for like an hour and catch all of the Pokemon that I can in the wild area and fill up the Dex. Because, you know, the story tells you that that's also part of your mission is to help fill up the Pokedex. So you go do that, and then you're like, okay, I just got done exploring the wild area and caught all the Pokemon that I wanted to catch. Now let me go continue playing the rest of the game and do the rest of the game story. I'm over-leveled for the rest of the game, and now the actual, like, trainer battle part of the game is piss fucking easy, and I can just turn my brain off and mash X, right? Or mash the A button and just blast through the fucking game. It doesn't help that, like, the wild area and catching Pokemon in the wild area is, like, the actual fun part of the game, and trainer battles aren't. And trainer battles aren't the fun part of the game because you're always going to be over-leveled because you actually wanted to spend time doing the fun part of the game, which is the wild area. So, yeah. Sword and Shield suffers from the game is too easy, and it fucking treats you like a baby. So, it's not fun. Also, Dynamax is lame. Like, I kind of get... Like, it depends, right? I think Gigantamax is kind of interesting because it's just a variation on Mega Evolution. You can only Dynamax one Pokemon at a time. Some Pokemon gain access to a Gigantamax form. Some Pokemon don't. But they fucking ruin it, right? You ruined it by having it so that even a Pokemon that has a Gigantamax form can't just naturally Gigantamax. You have to either obtain it through an event, like the event Pikachu that turns into Gigantamax Pikachu, or you have to go do the DLC, which has an entire process for turning a standard Pokemon into its Gigantamax form. Now, I will say this about Sword and Shield. I think the DLCs for Sword and Shield are much better than the base game. The problem is that the games don't have level scaling. So if you start the game with, like, you get the digital deluxe edition, which I don't think exists, but you buy Sword and Shield, then you buy all the DLC, and you're like, okay, cool. Oh, the game is giving me an option to go play the DLC section, and then you go do the DLC stuff before you do the main game. You're just gonna shit on the main game because you're gonna be over leveled, right? Because the DLC, like the main game, doesn't scale with your level, and you're gonna gain a bunch of levels just by playing the DLC. Even though I think the DLC is like a superior experience, because it's just one massive wild area, or in this case, it's two, right? Because it's the Crown Tundra and the Isle of Armor. So you basically just, like, both of those two DLCs are just infinitely better experiences than the main game, because it is just one massive wild area. The problem is that it doesn't really have a story that you can, like, latch onto. The Isle of Armor is a little bit better, because it's a bit more battle focused, where you have to, like, go to these different dojos and stuff like that to level up Kubfu. But the game gives you fucking Kubfu, which turns into Urshifu, and Urshifu is fucking broken. So if you do the Isle of Armor, by the time you leave it, or by the time you get Urshifu, everything else in the game is piss easy because Urshifu is fucking snapped, right? So, right? And then, like, I will say, like, at least the DLC characters are, like, kind of, sort of interesting a little, right? Like, the rival you get in the DLC is fun, in the Isle of Armor is fun. The storyline for Crown Tundra is, like, okay, right? The characters in Crown Tundra are okay, but the thing that makes Crown Tundra, like, less interesting is just it is one large ice area, or snow area for the most part, and that gets kind of visually boring. So, I guess it's just okay. Again, I talked about Hop. Hop is an example of, like, I always felt so bad when playing Sword and Shield, is because, like, Hop wants to be the protagonist so fucking bad. His confidence is completely unfounded, right? Like, he's constantly saying to himself that, like, I'm gonna be the next best trainer, right? I'm gonna surpass Leon, my brother, and then, like, every opportunity you get, you shit on him, and he's like you shit on Hop so badly that by the end of the game, he completely gives up on his dream of being better than you in surpassing Leon, and instead just becomes the next professor, right? He becomes the professor's assistant, and, like, that's really, really fucking lame. Even down to like he doesn't, unlike Blue, where you shit on Blue and Blue kind of, like, takes it on the chin. He's like, damn, okay, you're actually better than I thought. I guess I'm gonna have to level up. Like, this nigga, he on some other shit, okay? Right? Hop is like, he, like, throws a fit about it, right? Like, you beat him and he, like, fucking stomps his foot. And he's like, damn, I really wanted to beat you, man. Oh well. Right? I guess you're just that much better than me. Like, it's like, dude, don't make me feel bad for shitting on you, right? Like, what is the game doing? Why are you doing that? Stop it. Bede is a much better, like, antagonist, right, or rival, because Bede is a cocky asshole who's like, I'm gonna shit on you, you're terrible, right? Like, I was chosen by the fucking chairman. Like, who the fuck are you? Oh, you were chosen by the region's champion. Like, well, I was chosen by the chairman, and the chairman is better, so fuck you, right? And then you shit on him, and he's like, you're better than I thought, right? Like, he has a much more Blue-inspired attitude, and he doesn't, like, whine, bitch, and complain about things or get depressed that you're shitting on him. He just kind of, like, develops a level of respect for you by the end of the game. It doesn't feel like that way with Hop, right? Like, Hop, it doesn't feel like Hop actually, like, respects you. He just wants to fucking beat you, right? Marnie is just there. Like, I feel so bad. Like, I don't understand people's fucking infatuation with that character. Like, Marnie is a nothing burger. She's just there. and has no like major impact on the story whatsoever, or like she doesn't influence me, or I feel no emotional attachment to that character or any of the events that she had. Like she shows up, she battles you, and then you shit on her and you move on, right? I don't know. I don't get it. I really don't fucking get it. And then there's the whole like, oh my god, the story for this game is so fucking bad. The whole Darkest Day thing, the whole like easiest subversion of your Pokemon expectations you could have possibly done was the chairman is actually not the bad guy, right? Like you look at the first cutscene of the game and you're like, okay, that guy is clearly the evil team leader, right? He's clearly the bad guy of the story. And sure enough, the game is so content with not subverting your expectation. It's so determined to fulfill your expectations and not do anything interesting that it literally forces the chairman to be the bad guy by the end of the game. Right? Where Leon is like, yo, I will help you with this Darkest Day thing, but you gotta let me do this fucking fight with the protagonist, right? I have to do the fight with the MC. And the chairman is like, no, this can't wait. I have to start the Darkest Day right now at this very moment. I can't wait 5 minutes for the protagonist to shit on you, right? It's so fucking forced. Not even just the matter of like the energy crisis with the whole Dynamax energy thing in the Darkest Day. It's like that's like 10,000 years in the future that will happen. Who knows what kind of advancements in technology will occur from now until then? And the chairman is like, nope, I absolutely have to do this now. There is no waiting. And if I'm Leon, I'm just like, dude, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, I was literally going to help you figure this shit out if you would have just waited 10 minutes. So that's really fucking annoying. Like, a way, way, way better version of this story would have been to have the chairman's assistant make that decision, right? To force the Darkest Day out of a desire to fulfill the chairman's the chairman's wishes. And the chairman is like, yo, what are you doing? We could have waited. There's so many other ways we could have did this. Like, you didn't have to do this. And she's like, I really wanted to fulfill your dream and stuff like that because of her commitment to the chairman. Like, that's the easiest fucking way of like improving the story so much and subverting your expectation. I mean, it's not really a subversion because you can tell just by like the way this bitch acts that this is like evil team material, right? Or antagonist material right here. But like it's a way better way to tell that story than how they decided to go about it. And you can tell that the game is just fucking rushed as a result of how that story is told. There's also like a lot of people complain about the fact that like Leon is the champion of the region and he actually does like regional champion shit. Like there's a Dynamax Pokemon attacking an area or going wild, and instead of you, the protagonist, who hasn't really done anything yet, being told to go handle it, they send the fucking champion to go handle it, which makes so much more sense, even if it takes away from you being the protagonist, right? And it's like people complain about that, and I don't really understand the complaint there. Like, I get that you want... It's because the game is so fucking boring that you actually want to go do something interesting, but Leon gets to go do all of the fun and interesting things, which is go battle a Dynamax Pokemon. I think a way you could have done that is to maybe just have your character be there when something big happens. You fight the Dynamax Pokemon, and it's one of those cutscenes where, like, even if you win, you lose, and Leon shows up to help you, right? That's a way you could have done that feels more satisfying, in my opinion. But I think Leon as a character is great, right? Like, I think as a champion, Leon is one of the better champions that we've seen. I like the fact that he has a Charizard. I know a lot of people are like, Generation 1 Glaze, here we go. It's got to be a fucking Generation 1 Pokemon, but fuck you, Charizard is awesome. If you were going to be a champion of a region, and you were going to choose a starter to represent you as the champion, who the fuck would not pick a Charizard? By the way, we haven't talked about the starters for this region, so let's do that. Oh man, I don't know what to tell you, bro. Like, the only good starter in this region is Scorbunny. Like, if you don't pick Scorbunny, what are you doing? Grookey is adorable. I love Grookey, but it suffers from the same problem that a lot of fucking starters suffer from, which is... Geez, I didn't talk about the starters for Generation 2 either. Yeah, we gotta circle back at the end of here, and at the end of this to talk about all the starters. But Grookey suffers from the same problem where it's like the first evolution is fine, right? I love Grookey, but the middle evolution, Thwacky, is fucking ugly. I hate Thwacky, and I think Brailaboom is also like kind of lame and ugly because it's just buff grown man using drums. Like it's so like uninteresting in my opinion. It's so uninspired. Uh, I hate it. I don't like it. It's boring. I'm gonna talk about more. Oh shit! I didn't talk about Sun and Moon's fucking starters either. um, Sobble, right? So this is another Generation 8 starter that I don't like. I think I think all of Sobble's evolution line is bad, in my opinion. Like, I'm not a fan. I think Sobble itself is fucking ugly because I don't like its hands and feet. And it's just a fucking crying Pokemon, and like that's lame. Like, I don't want a Pokemon that's a bitch. Its middle evolution is like an emo kid. It's like that's also like I don't fucking want that. And then its final evolution is like the most okay final evolution, but it is literally just a well. I would argue like its final evolution is more like Greninja, right? Where it's intended to be a specific thing, which is like a sniper or a secret agent. But I just don't think it incorporates enough of its own design, right? It's enough of its own like monster-esque design into its final evolution design, right? It's not a mix between a secret agent and a monster. It is just a secret agent with a monster cosplay on, right? Or like a monster head. And that's why I think it's like less interesting. Whereas Score Bunny, right? You could maybe make the same argument for Score Bunny. I think regular Score Bunny is adorable. It's the best of the three designs. It's got so much fucking personality. It's insane, right? And maybe it's just that the personality appeals to me more. This hyperactive, right? Always ready to go, right? Kind of personality. I like that shit. Its second evolution is like the biggest miss I've ever seen in a second evolution lineup, right? Because it's just you take that energy that Score Bunny had, and maybe this is supposed to be like an athlete, maybe like in its prime or like just about to hit professional league, where it's like trying its hardest, it's locked in, right? It's no nonsense, it's no bullshit. It's all about its craft. So it's like super focused, and like it's entered its cool guy arc. Maybe that's what it's going for. I don't know. I don't really like it all that much. Like I always thought it was going for like a ninja approach instead of like a cool athlete kind of thing. I don't know. Hard to say. Kind of a miss in my opinion. And then the final evolution. Oh man, I don't remember it off the top of my head. I don't remember what the final evolution is called. But I love the final evolution, right? It's a soccer player. Its signature move is fucking badass, where it like kicks the stone and turns it into a fucking fireball that it kicks at you. Like that is so cool. It's such a cool animation in like design for a Pokemon, right? It's a soccer player, but it is primarily a rabbit. Then it's a soccer player, right? It's a rabbit with soccer player elements, whereas something like Sobble's final evolution is a secret agent with monster elements attached to it, right? Anyway, moving on. I think that's more or less all I have to say about this region. I like the character customization for Sword and Shield. This is something that was like introduced in X and Y that I didn't bring up. All Pokemon games should have in-depth character customization. Let me fucking drip my character out as much as I want. And I think it's so like one of the things I hated about Sword and Shield is that the only thing I ever wanted to do was really to just customize my character, and the most expensive items in the game are clothes. Like, no, don't do that. What are you doing? Like, don't make me go grind boring fucking battles against easy fucking trainers just so that I can buy the clothes that I want my fucking character to wear. So obnoxious. Um, but yeah, I think for the most part that's all I have to say about Sword and Shield. Easy fucking games. Terrible box. I think the box legendaries are like okay, I guess they're fine. Story is trash. The DLC is like mid. I have an entire video planned about like fucking DLC for Pokemon games that I want to go over, but don't play this. Just like to be fair, this was the second. This game took me the second longest to beat. I played through this game, and I had to keep stopping and starting my playthrough because it was so fucking boring, and I didn't want to finish it. But I did manage to finish it, and that's why I place it higher than Sun and Moon. At the same time, depending on the day you ask me, Sword and Shield and Sun and Moon swap places for the worst games in the series. Because that's another thing. No, Sun and Moon. I might actually have to put Sun and Moon above Sword and Shield. Sword and Shield might actually be the worst games in the franchise because there's no voice acting. This is the start of the franchise of me asking, why is there no voice acting in this franchise? Right? Like the scene with the gym leader who sings, who's Marnie's brother, and there's no music playing, there's no voice acting, he doesn't fucking sing. It's just dead silence with him mouthing the words of a song. That's when I knew, I was like, this game is a piece of shit. And these assholes do not fucking care. They will shit on a plate, hand it to you, and say, this is $60. And people will buy it. And I bought it when it first came out. And I feel ashamed that I fucking own a copy of this game. That's why it's the worst in the series. No fucking voice acting. And for key moments like that. Like the opening cutscene for this game is Chairman Rose talking to the stadium of Pokemon fans, right? And there's like little subtitles to like tell you what he's saying. And it's this big verbose, right, real-time cutscene, and there's no fucking voice acting. Why? Why is there no voice acting in a cutscene like that? I'm not even trying to say that there needs to be voice acting for the whole game, right? But that one cutscene should have had voice acting. And they couldn't even do that. Depressing. Fucking disgusting even. So yeah, like Sun and Moon get a pass because it's a 3DS game. And 3DS games could have had voice acting, but like there are no like there are some cutscenes that absolutely would have benefited from having voice acting in Sun and Moon. But again, I give you a pass because you're on the 3DS. This is a home console, full price, $60 fucking video game with DLC, and they couldn't put voice acting in it. Fuck you, Sword and Shield. I hate that game. Alright, let's move on to Scarlet and Violet. So, this is probably a really unpopular opinion, but I would actually put Sword and Shield... okay, Scarlet and Violet, for me personally, is like an A tier game. But, for the sake of consistency, I have to put it in B tier. There are some people who think this game needs to be an F tier with Sword and Shield and Sun and Moon. I would never say Scarlet and Violet is that bad. You know what? It's my list. I'm going to put it in A tier. Fuck you. Scarlet and Violet have problems. Serious problems. Again, no voice acting. That instantly knocks it down from S tier. It cannot be an S tier game because it does not have voice acting. And it desperately needs voice acting. The game also does not have level scaling. And it desperately needs level scaling. Like, how... We'll talk about it in a second. The biggest flaw with this game is probably the bugs and glitches. Now, the reason the game ranks so high for me is because I personally did not experience some of like the wild, broken, buggy mess of a game that this is, right? I didn't experience a lot of those bugs and glitches that a lot of people have shown on the internet. Maybe it's because I played the game offline, right? Because I'm kind of a solo player. And I just like to kind of experience the game at my own pace. But I think like I played online once with a friend to trade Palafin, right, for to get its final evolution. But that's it. Because I really like Zero to Hero as an ability. But other than that, I didn't experience all of those crazy bugs and glitches, right? I didn't fall through the map or anything like that. I didn't have my character fucking glitch out and turn into an eldritch demon, right? None of that. The camera was ass. I will give you that. The camera is absolute fucking dog shit. The frame rate is also complete, but actually, you're right. I can't put it in A tier. It has to go in B tier. Like, as I list out kind of the problems with this game, yeah, it's rough. This is a rough fucking game. But there is still a lot that I love about this game. When I was playing through this, I legitimately thought, I was like, this might be like one of my favorite Pokemon games of all time. And I still stand by that. I think in terms of like, and you know, I'll be honest, that's probably the honeymoon phase, right, for this game. But being able to just explore the wild, the open world, catch whatever Pokemon you want, the region, like the entire wild area is full of different Pokemon. There are like location specific Pokemon that spawn, so you are rewarded for exploring the map and like really checking every nook and cranny, because you might come across a Pokemon that has a unique spawn. There are items scattered all throughout the map. Even if the map looks like dog shit, and it does look like dog shit, I'm sorry. I don't know. I had a lot of fun with it, right? And I think on your first playthrough, especially if you're playing this on like the Switch 2, where the frame rate is much, much better, or if the game is ever like patched to where a lot of like the bugs and glitches aren't really in the game anymore, or if you don't play it in a way that like bugs and glitches occur, you're gonna enjoy this, right? Like, I think you will enjoy this far more than you will enjoy many of the other games we've listed so far. I think riding around on the back of Miraidon, or Kyridon, whatever the fucking name is for the other one, is really fun. I think exploring the world is fun once you get all of the movement abilities and stuff like that. I think the game has good Pokemon variety. Like, it has some of the best fucking team building variety in any Pokemon game I've ever played. The variety and locations of the region is nice, right? Like, Paldea is just rich in different fucking landscapes. Like, okay, to get the elephant out of the room, right? The biggest issue I have with this game is no level scaling. That's it. Like, if this game had level scaling, I could forgive almost every other problem with this game, and it would be an easy S tier. Because for me, the game would be almost infinitely replayable. But because it doesn't have level scaling, it hurts the experience so fucking much. It's unbelievable, right? Like, to be fair, like, the first two gym leaders, you can kind of fight in any order you want. One of them is slightly harder than the other one, but like, if you go fight the second gym leader before you fight the first one, when you go back to fight the first gym leader, you're just gonna shit on him, right? So like, it really, really hurts to not have level scaling, and I really, really hoped that they would have level scaling in this game. Even down to like, let's say you just want to do, what the fuck is her name? Oh my god, I can't believe I don't remember her name. Nimona. Let's say you just want to do Nimona's main quest line, which is just the gyms, right? And then you want to do everything else afterwards. Well, first off, that's going to be really challenging because you kind of need Arven's stuff from the what the there's so many different names, bro, for this shit. For the aggressive Pokemon, right? The big whatchamacallit Pokemon, the alpha Pokemon, whatever. The ones that ate the Herba Mystica, right? Those things. You need the upgrades you get from eating the Herba Mystica to really traverse the landscape the way that you really want to. And the game is much more of a slog if you don't have those things. So, but assume you wanted to just do Nimona stuff and just get all of the gym badges first, right? You do that, and then you're like, okay, now I'll go do Arven stuff. Now I'll go do Cassiopeia stuff. And then you just shit on everything because they don't scale, right? So What you're actually expected to do with this game is decide which of the 3 storylines you want to start first. In what order do you want to do each of the events of the 3 storylines? For instance, do you want to do Arvin's stuff first, like the first mission of Arvin's stuff first? Do you want to do the first gym first, or do you want to do the first Team Star base first? Right? That's kind of all you get in terms of like replay value and playing the game in a different order. Other than that, for the most part, you have to do everything in like chronological order, which is really lame, right? And boring, and kind of takes away from the fact that this is supposed to be your adventure, right? Your treasure hunt, right? Where you can kind of explore the region and do things at your own pace. I don't know. Really big missed opportunity, but I still think it's a fun experience. Speaking of Nimona, Arvin, and Penny, I think this game has debatably one of the best stories in a Pokemon game, right? Nimona is a really fun rival. I think she's like the most fun rival we've had in a very, very, very long time, since Barry probably. And that's just because like she gets such a hard on for fighting you, and is like so amped to just battle you and about battling in general. It's really refreshing to just see a character who's kind of just like one note, and that's like all they're really passionate about is just battling. I think one of the things that like hurts this game is like Nimona is treated. She's called a champion tier trainer, right? So that implies that there are other champion tier Pokemon trainers at the academy, and you just don't get to see them. Like, how cool would it be if, as you're playing the game, you come across other champion tier players or champion tier trainers who battle you, like in addition to Nimona, or even after you beat the game and get all the gym battles or all the gym badges, you get to fight other champion tier trainers who use like different types than the gym leaders. Or how cool would it have been if the other champion tier trainers in the post game, they actually use teams taken from players who play online, like Street Pass style, where they pull a team from a character or from a player from an online match and use that player's team as this trainer's team. Like, that would have been so fucking cool and so badass. And there's just a club room that you go to and you can battle these different trainers, and it's like a way to train you for online battles, right? In a like a controlled environment. Like, I don't know. I think that would have been a really cool feature. I actually think expanding upon the academy in this game would have been a really fun and interesting feature. And I really hope, like, I think Pokemon as a whole, right, should continue down the route of like setting the story in an academy, or in like a school of some kind, and kind of moving, like branching out from there. Just because I think the idea of like, oh, if you're new to the game, you have classes that you can go to that can teach you about all of the different mechanics, right, that are in Pokemon games. The idea of like the school setting is perfect because it gives you access to your rivals, it gives you access to companions, right? It gives you guidance in the form of like teachers and stuff like that, that can instruct the player. And school is just kind of a nice setting for this kind of franchise, if you ask me. Like, I found it really comforting and like enjoyable to just be able to come back to the school, talk to the different students that are in the school, talk to the different professors, right? Even battling some of the different professors was really cool. Having Director Calvel basically with you, guiding you, giving you advice and shit like that, life advice as a character, or for your character as you go throughout the game. I think it's like really charming. It's really cool. And it's a direction I hope that they actually continue to take the series moving forward. But anyway, so yeah, Nimona's story is good. Arvin's storyline, well, Nimona's is like bare bones. It's very like straightforward. It's just Nimona is like a fun character to watch. Arvin is like one of the more compelling stories, just in general, for Pokemon. A guy who's like, he's kind of a complicated character. in terms of like Pokemon characters, right? He's one of the more complicated ones, and kind of a more tragic character, right? With like what happens to his parents. Um, Penny's story is like interesting because it's like a redemption storyline for the characters of Team Star, which I think is also kind of underbaked in this game. Depending on how you look at it, right? I think the main characters of Team Star get enough screen time to flesh themselves out. But like the team itself doesn't get enough screen time to really flesh out like what it means to be a part of Team Star and that kind of thing. Also, again, all of this would be helped with voice acting to make you really connect with the characters, but you know, it's Pokemon. We don't have voice acting, and I'm gonna be honest, we might not ever get voice acting at this point. Like I've given up hope that they're gonna put voice acting in any of these fucking games. Director Calvo is like really, like I mentioned him before. He's like one of the better parts of this game, in my opinion. Like again, it's just nice to have kind of an adult figure looking out for you and like kind of just there in the background in a lot of instances. He's mostly there for the Team Star stuff, but because the Team Star stuff is kind of like stuff that you're gonna do in the middle of doing all your other shit, it's good to check in with him, even though he's like in disguise. By like the end of the game, he's still like checking in on you and like kind of checks in on everyone that you've worked with, like the three main characters. Like he himself is a part of the main cast as much as Nimona, Penny, and Arven is. And I think that really adds to the game's story, right? Like he's one of the first characters you even meet in the story, right? Because he's the one who picks you up to give you the starters or to take you to get your starters, right? So just well done, right? Like again, from a story perspective, I was actually like interested. I was actually invested for the most part in this game's storyline or storylines, right? Even down to like the whole time machine thing in the crater of Area Zero, right? Or the crater of Paldea. Like I was pretty much invested for the most part throughout the entire experience. Even if the game runs like fucking dog shit, and that kind of takes you out of the experience. But yeah, like like I said, a lot of people shit on this game. A lot of people consider this to be one of the worst games in the franchise. I just don't see it. Like I agree, it has massive problems related to performance, right? But if you look at the game, like I'm someone who loves Sonic 06, right? Like I think Sonic 06 is a fun game, even though I agree it is objectively a bad game. I agree that Scarlet and Violet, from a technical standpoint, is objectively a bad game, and if you can't look past its performance issues and bugs and glitches and stability issues, I can completely understand why it's not a game for you and why you would consider it a bad game. But if you're playing on Switch 2, where the performance is not that bad, if you play on an emulator where the performance is not that bad, right? If you don't experience a bunch of bugs and glitches with the game, I think there is a lot that this game has to offer you that you will enjoy. The sandwich making is fucking terrible. I'm sorry. That's pretty awful. That's one of the worst parts of the game. The ability to like not go indoors, right? A lot of the towns feel underdeveloped and underbaked. Or a lot of the cities, whatever. Towns, cities, whatever. The post game for this game is kind of lacking, even though the game has DLC. So, you know, that helps. And in fact, let's talk about the DLC. I actually think the DLC is like some of the best storylines for Pokemon we've seen in a while, right? It's very character driven, right? It's like two characters that you're hanging out with for most of the DLC. It's set in this single area, right? You get to experience the little festival thing. The festival is whatever, right? Who fucking cares? But Ogre Pond is fucking adorable. It's one of my favorite Pokemon ever in terms of like design and even in terms of mechanics. The fact that you like swap its masks out to change its secondary typing, that's awesome. Its moves are cool. It's got a lot of fucking personality. The story around Ogre Pond is really like interesting and kind of cool. And then the fact that like one of the main characters that you're hanging out with throughout the entire adventure is like super connected to Ogre Pond and like wants to catch Ogre Pond for himself, and Ogre Pond chooses you over him. Like it's one of those instances where you being the protagonist actually has negative effects on the other characters in a way that I think is actually interesting, right? Like Hop isn't interesting because he's kind of a shithead about it, right? Like he makes you feel bad for being good at the game. Whereas uh this character in particular for the DLC, right? Yes, he becomes a dickhead, but he improves himself while being a dickhead, right? He basically says, I wasn't good enough to be chosen by Ogerpon, so I'm going to improve myself so that I will be good enough to beat you and prove that I'm the one who deserves to be Ogerpon's master, right? And he does that, even though he turns into a fucking dickhead while doing it, and like is like talking shit to his sister and like talks shit to the rest of his classmates and shit like that. But he backs it up by being an actual formidable trainer, right? He's the best trainer in the school now. So like his words are not hollow, his words are not empty. He's actually kind of that nigga, if we're being honest with you, right? And then you show up and you're like, yo, you're being a dickhead, cut that shit out. And then you shit on him, right? Like he's like, nah, fuck you, I'm better than you, right? Let me prove why I'm the one who should be Ogerpon's master. And then you shit on him, even though he's become stronger, right? He became stronger in a worse way by being a dick, right? And that makes Ogerpon want to be his master even less than she already didn't, right? Than it already didn't want to be his master. So, and then like that even further snowballs into him like trying to catch the legendary Pokemon of the fucking disc, the second DLC. I forget what the fucking DLC is called. But the little turtle Pokemon, right? He's like, well, you have a legendary, so I'll have a fucking legendary, right? And like this will make me better than you and shit like that. And like I don't know, I found it kind of interesting, right? Like I given all of the Pokemon stories that we've experienced up until this point, this one was like interesting. My eyes were actually open for 90% of the fucking story's runtime. And I actually remember the shit that was happening in the fucking story. I wasn't just checked the fuck out mashing through all the dialogue, right? So I don't know. Like again, I think like a lot of people talk about Scarlet and Violet, but they don't mention the DLC. And like I said, I think the DLC is decent. I think it's actually pretty good. I think you should check it out. If you can find Scarlet and Violet on sale for Switch 2, and you find the DLC on sale, which you come on, it's Nintendo. You're not, right? But if you can get your hands on the game for cheap and you can play the DLC for cheap, I actually think you'll be pleasantly surprised by what this game has to offer, right? By what the DLC has to offer. And the game in general, right? Because I think there's a lot of fun to be had with this particular entry in the series. Okay, moving on from Scarlet and Violet. We're doing Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. So I can't put that in F tier. I refuse to put Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl in F tier because I don't think it's that bad. Again, depending on who you ask, they're gonna tell you this is dog shit. I think it's bad. Don't get me wrong. It goes in D tier, right? I think it's better than if you just played vanilla Diamond and Pearl, but I think the main game is so boring and easy because of the XP share that there is no challenge as you play through the main game, right? You just kind of shit on the whole of the main game, and then you get to the end game, and there's this massive difficulty spike with the Elite Four, and you're just like, oh shit, wait, whoa, hold on, this game has some balls. Wait a minute, what? Right? So it kind of throws you off. It kind of whiplashes you, right, with this difficulty spike at the very end. But like other than that, okay, I'll tell you what. I like Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl only because this version of the game led to like what is debatably one of the best Pokemon games of all time, which is Luminescent version, which is a ROM hack of Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which converts Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl into Pokemon Renegade Platinum. That game is actually really fucking good and actually based, whereas this game is far from it. Now, there's some good things from Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, right? The underground being expanded upon, in letting you catch a bunch of different Pokemon that you wouldn't regularly be able to find in Sinnoh, I think is a really cool feature. I think the visuals in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are actually really nice once you get used to them. I know a lot of people don't like the chibi art style. I find the chibi art style to be just okay. I think the game looks much better when you're actually in battle and like the characters are full-sized models. Um, I think the art style, like the actual uh, art direction that they went with, looks really nice. It's like very vibrant and pretty. Like, like my major issues with this remake are mechanical issues rather than visual issues. Right? Visually, it's a gorgeous game. Um, Even if some people don't like the chibis, like I think the chibis are perfectly fine. Like if the black and white remake are done in this art style, I am totally fine with that, so long as mechanically they make improvements from this game. An example is why the fuck would you? Why would you remake Diamond and Pearl? Why would you not remake Platinum? Like what? Even if you were gonna remake Diamond and Pearl, why would you choose to remake? Why would you choose to make them faithful remakes rather than make improvements upon Diamond and Pearl? Right? In the same way that Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are improvements to Ruby and Sapphire version. For some reason, we just didn't do that. Like the design philosophy was to make them as close to Diamond and Pearl version as possible, which is just asinine because Diamond and Pearl version are not looked upon very favorably by the community, right? Like they have a lot of issues. So why would you do that instead of just deciding, well, let's just take elements from Platinum version and add those elements to Diamond and Pearl where needed, right? Which some of it is there, right? Like it's way faster than playing vanilla Diamond and Pearl, right? The health bars don't move at a fucking snail's pace. Just in general, the engine is way faster than it is in Diamond and Pearl version, so you're gonna have a much better experience playing through the game in terms of pacing than you would playing through original Diamond and Pearl. So that's a plus. But like difficulty wise, like I said, the game is just it wasn't updated to reflect the fact that you now have the XP share, right? And or the XP all as it's called, because Diamond and Pearl version did have the XP share, but it was limited to one Pokemon that you could give the XP share to. This one is here's the XP all, and it functions like it does in all modern Pokemon games. So your whole team is just over leveled throughout the entire game, and you just shit on everything. Like now would have been a great time to introduce difficulty options back into these games as a way of remixing Diamond and Pearl to make them more challenging. Mega Evolution, right? Adding Mega Evolution would have made the game more interesting and challenging. I mean, like, why? Like, and I think this is one of the most disappointing parts of Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl is after Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, I was like, oh, like, remakes have the potential to have Mega Evolutions in them. So I'm really looking forward to Sinnoh remakes because that means I can finally get my Mega Luxray that's a Dark type. I can finally get that electric Dark type from Mega Luxray. And Mega Luxray can actually be improved upon by maybe giving it a buff to its special stat or maybe buffing its speed stat or something like that to make the Pokemon a little bit more viable. And we didn't get that. Missed opportunity, right? To give fucking Luxray the proper love it deserves. Because we decided not to include Mega. Because we wanted to make faithful remakes of Diamond and Pearl version. Again, I have some things to say about like DLC. Yeah, I'll talk about it here, right? So we're in an age where Pokemon games get DLC, right? Like even Legends ZA, which is a spin-off game, is getting DLC, right? We're at a point where I think remakes for Pokemon games should get DLC moving forward, right? In the sense that if Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl came out and the base game was just Diamond and Pearl's remakes, but like a year later or 6 months later, we got Platinum DLC that either converted your save file to platinum or gave you a new game plus option that started the game in platinum, right, and included all the changes for platinum, I think that would have been such a massive win for Game Freak and Ilka. Like unprecedented win from the community. But for some reason, we just drop Diamond and Pearl and we ignore Platinum, which is considered one of the best games in the franchise. Like, I don't know. It's such a bizarre decision and such a disappointing decision. That is honestly why it goes into the spot that it goes into. That's why it's a D tier game. It is a disappointment that this is not just a remake of Platinum, right? Or that it doesn't have options included for Platinum. Like, there's no Battle Frontier. Instant D tier. It should be F tier solely for the fact that there is no Battle Frontier option. Like, how do you not do the Battle Frontier? Come on, son. Like, what are we talking about, man? Also, no national decks. Like, one of the most appealing parts of a Pokemon remake is you can now bring the Pokemon from other generations, future generations, into, or the current generation, into these old generations and experience the old generation with new Pokemon, adding replay value. If I wanted to play through Gen 4 with a Snivy, I could do that. If I wanted to play through for instance, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, if I want to play with a Greninja in Ruby and Sapphire, I can do that with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire because it has the national decks. But that was another reason why Sword and Shield is dog shit, is because that was the first game that cuts the national decks, and then they sell the most of the national decks back to you with the DLC. Fuck you, Game Freak, and fuck that game. But Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl have like the same problem, where it's just the decks from Sinnoh, right? Like, or it's just the decks up to Generation 4. And it's like, why would you do that? Like, every potential reason why a person would want a remake of the games is lost from a mechanical standpoint. So it's just, not only is it a terrible remake from the standards of the franchise, but it's a remake of a game that is already considered D tier. And that's why it's a D tier game. In fact, I'm going to put it below Diamond and Pearl. It's at the very bottom of D tier, on its way to the F tier, because it has so much potential that's unfulfilled that it actively makes the game worse. Whereas if you were playing Luminescent version, this is like an S tier game. But you're not playing Luminescent version. You're playing Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. All right, 2 games left. Legends Arceus. So I'm going to put Legends Arceus in C tier. I think it's fine. I think it's fun. It depends on what you want out of a Pokemon game. If you are content with catching Pokemon as being the main gimmick of the game, in like the real-time catch mechanic, the open world zone, right, that kind of thing, this is probably a completely passable and enjoyable experience for you. Personally, I want more out of my Pokemon games. I want gym leaders, right? That's my big thing. I like the battles. I like catching Pokemon is cool, but my big thing has always been the battles. So the fact that battling is kind of taking a back seat in this game kind of puts me off from it. The fact that this is a more story-focused Pokemon game is also something that kind of turns me off. Not because the story is bad, but because there's no voice acting. And like, that is a mantra that I want you to repeat over and over again. No voice acting. If this game had voice acting, it would easily shoot up to like A tier. But because it doesn't have voice acting, it has to be C tier. Because I don't give a fuck about the story, because I have to read all of the story. And like, reading dialogue is way worse than listening to someone speak the dialogue, because a good voice actor can enhance a shitty script, right? Or even a subpar script. But because there's no voice acting, you just have to take the script at face value, and it's some of the most dry, kind of bland storytelling you've ever heard, right? Now, again, the gameplay is like fine. I would much prefer if it took some inspiration from Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, where you can ride any Pokemon that seems rideable, or you can use any Pokemon that would have a good sense of smell, uh, to seek out hidden items and shit like that. You can use any Pokemon that can climb to help you climb, like cliffs and stuff like that. But it doesn't go that route. It goes the lazy route of you only have these specific Pokemon that can help you with riding things, and you don't really develop like a strong bond with them because you don't really use them in battle. So, from a visual standpoint, I think the game is fucking ugly. I think the game is hideous. Uh, like I'm not a big fan of the game's art style in general. Really, it's like technical reasons that make this game look fucking horrible. If the game had more shadows, right? If the resolution was better, if the frame rate was fucking better. Jesus Christ, the frame rate. If the draw distance was better, right? All of those kinds of things, the game's visuals would be more acceptable. But because it's limited to Switch 1 hardware, and we don't have a Switch 2 like update version for this game, this is rough. This is a rough one to play. Like people shit on Scarlet and Violet for being like having rough frame rates and stuff like that. Like this one is also really shitty in terms of its frame rate and performance. I actually like a lot of like the starter choice for this game. Remixing it like that, where it's what is it? Oshawott, Decidueye, and what's the fire type starter for this game? Oh, Cyndaquil. Like Cyndaquil is like one of my favorite Pokemon ever. Decidueye is one of my favorite Pokemon, or Decidueye, however you want to say that name, is also one of my favorite Pokemon. So like that's just a slam dunk for me. And you know how I feel about Oshawott in its final evolution. So like generally good starters, if I'm being honest. And something I really hope that they continue to do. Shit, I would be honest with you. It's one of the reasons I like Legends ZA to a certain degree. Is we've stuck with that remixed starter thing. I think more spin-offs should go that route, right? And I think the spin-off games are the ones that should have the national decks, and have these like remixed kind of selections of starters that make things kind of interesting and unique. And Legends Arceus is the start of that, and that's why I think like it gets somewhat of a pass. It gets some starting points or some special points. I think the game also gets some special points for being kind of dark, right? It's another one of those games that is darker than you would expect it to be. Like the motherfuckers that the village that you go to, they're like, yeah, like you have to be useful. Like you actually have to catch Pokemon or like contribute to the research team, or we're gonna kick you out and throw you into the fucking wild with the wild Pokemon. And like you're probably gonna starve to death or die out there. And it's like that's really fucking dark and like depressing. And in a way, like they kind of force you into slave labor in that way. Because like you have to earn your keep and stuff like that. But neither here nor there. Again, how much you enjoy this one is totally just based on like what you want from a Pokemon game. If you're looking for something kind of refreshing, Legends Arceus is probably going to give that to you. But from a performance standpoint and visual standpoint, I think the game is fucking hideous and ugly. And I think the primary gameplay loop is like, it's fun in short bursts, but it's not something that like I actively seek out or find myself wanting to go back to. All right, final entry on the fucking list. Newest released Pokemon game, Pokemon Legends ZA. Where does it stack up? Well, to be honest with you, I haven't finished it yet, so I can't give you like a full 100% breakdown of the game. But just based on what I've played so far, it's fine. It's like a B tier game. It's okay, right? Like looking at it in a vacuum, it's B tier. But when you consider the price, which is $70 with $30 paid day one DLC, I'm gonna drop the game down to C tier. This, in the same way that I think Legends Arceus is like a game where you kind of have to go in with like different expectations and you may or may not like it. I feel the same way about Legends ZA, right? Like the primary gameplay loop for this game is a bit more traditional, right? With catching Pokemon, then battling, right? And you kind of just repeat that loop with like boss battles and shit like that intermixed in between everything. The fact that the game only takes place in Lumio City, the fact that the map itself is like not very large at all, it's relatively small. The fact that the game actually runs okay, but the fucking textures are so low resolution. Like, it looks better than Legends Arceus. It looks and runs better than Legends Arceus. I'll give you that. But it damn well better given the size of the map and the detail of the map, right? There are some, like, questionable design choices. Like, why are abilities not in the fucking game? It's just so bizarre. Yet held items are in the game, but abilities aren't in the game. I don't know. I'm not like the biggest stan for the new battle system. I think the battle system is just like okay. It's whatever. Like, this is one that you really do have to kind of play for yourself to determine whether or not you actually like it or not. But I can't recommend it because of its price. It is not worth $70. Between not having voice acting, between having a small map, between not having every Pokemon, right? It still doesn't have the national dex, between being kind of like not visually impressive. Like, yeah, Mega Evolutions are cool, but like, who cares? You can't explore the region, right? And then there's also the fact that, like, does this influence whether or not we will get a remake of X and Y? Like, this could... I think in the same way that I'm disappointed in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, I'm disappointed in this game. Because this could have easily been a subversion of expectations. Instead of doing a remake of Black and White, like people are expecting, right? Let's do a remake of Kalos, of Generation 6, and let's do the unreleased Z version of the game, right? The third version of the game. Let's expand upon the region, right? Tell the story from a different angle, right? And remix the story a little bit. Do it on new hardware. Really go fucking hard and really subvert everyone's expectations for what's next in our game plan, instead of doing Black and White remake, right? And we still get Black and White remake later. Just we get Kalos' third version in its place for now. That would have been such a massive W. People have wanted the Z version, the third version of Kalos, forever. And I am one of them. I really would love to see what they would have done with a third version of Kalos, an improved version of Gen 6. And instead of that, we get the most bare bones, basic fucking video game. Like, just Lumio City. You don't get to explore the area outside of Lumio City. You don't get to explore any of the cities connected directly to Lumio City, right? None of the wild areas from that you're used to. It's just single pocket areas of Pokemon. Right? You can't go in any of the buildings. The fucking texture work on the buildings are fucking horrible because it's all just a single PNG or a single model loaded into the game with windows that are PNGs, flowers that are PNGs, fucking terrible lighting. It's such a disappointing product. And not only is it disappointing, it's overpriced. But I say all of this shit in my actual like comments on Legends ZA. So if you want more of my in-depth thoughts on the game and on the franchise as a whole, in like its recent iterations, you can watch that video. But yeah, I think most people who play this will find it to be a completely passable experience, right? It's fine. It's fun. It's still got that Pokemon charm, right? The character models are like well designed, or like the characters themselves are well designed. The fucking Pokemon are expressive. The Pokemon have new animations and stuff like that. So there are positives. There are things to like about this game, but not enough to justify the $70 price tag or the $80 price tag if you buy it for Switch 2. With all of that said, that is the tier list for every Pokemon game in the franchise. With just fucking long. Real quick, speed round. Let's go through some of the starters that I missed. Generation 1. Bulbasaur, Squirtle, Charizard, Charmander. Charmander is awesome. I love Charmander. Bulbasaur is adorable. I fucking love Bulbasaur. I love Ivysaur. I'm not the biggest fan of Venusaur, if I'm being completely honest with you. I think the Squirtle line is one of the best water type lines ever made. I love Squirtle. I love Wartortle. Wartortle is like probably one of my top 5 favorite middle evolutions for a starter. It's such a simple starter. Like it's such a simple design, just giving it these little wings on its head and like changing its expression and altering its color a little bit. But I love it. I love Wartortle. Blastoise is an awesome design for a Pokemon. However, I actually think it kind of misses some of the elements that I would have liked to see incorporated from Wartortle's design. Like, I think Blastoise should have had wings. Like, it should have been a flying battleship or like a flying fortress with weapons or with cannons sticking out of it to capitalize on Wartortle's kind of wing-like ears. But that's just me. Look, I'm sure plenty of people don't give a fuck about that, and they think Blastoise's design is perfect. Charizard, of course, fucking amazing design. I love Charizard X. Not a big fan of Charizard Y's Mega Evolution. Like, I think it's just okay. It's just more... It leans more into, like, the dragon type elements of Charizard's design, whereas Charizard X leans more into, like, its fire type element. I don't know. I love the design. Maybe it's because it's black, and, like, I think black Pokemon are cool. Or I think the, like, shiny version of Charizard, where it's all black, is cool. The black dragon looks really sick, with the blue fucking fire coming out of its mouth. It's just a really neat design. It's a really cool design. Generation 2 starters. I already mentioned that I love Cyndaquil. I know Typhlosion has kind of gotten some heat due to some of its, like, the activities of its ancestors, but I still love Typhlosion as a design, right? It's one of my favorite designs for Pokemon. I still hope one day we get, like, a proper Mega for Typhlosion that isn't tied to its regional form or anything like that. That makes it, like, ground type, so it's like a volcano Pokemon. Like, that would be really sick. Even though Camerupt kind of fulfills that purpose. But anyway. Chikorita. I want to love Chikorita so fucking bad, but it's not a useful Pokemon. It's slow. I like that. I'm pretty sure now it has the fairy type attached to it, which is, like, a common thing that ROM hacks do. I could be wrong, though. But Chikorita's cute, right? Like, Chikorita is cute. Bayleaf is cute. Meganium is an adorable Pokemon, right? Like, all of its evolution line is just solid. I'm a big fan. It's just not very useful. It's not very strong, and that's the main problem with it. Maybe give it, like, Serene Grace, which it... Does it already have Serene Grace? Maybe it has it in, like, the Drayano hacks is what I'm thinking of. I don't know. But that would probably improve its performance a little bit more. And then, of course, Totodile. So I think Totodile and Croconaw are fucking awesome designs. I love Totodile and its second evolution. But I think Feraligatr is just kind of boring. I think it's kind of lazy. I would have loved to see more of, like, a like, caveman style Pokemon, right? Like, make Feraligatr, make its final evolution, like, water ground, which I know they already did with Mudkip, but like a water or even water rock, right? Water rock type, and it's holding like a big fucking bone or something like that, and it's got like a caveman esque design. I think that would have been really sick to kind of go similarly with Croconaut's design. Uh, but yeah, love those first two evolutions. Totodile always looks like it's having a great time, and like that's why it's one of my favorite Pokemon. Generation 3, Trico is like one of my favorite grass type starters. He looks fucking awesome. It is 100% biased from the anime because Ash's Trico is like the man. I fucking love that Pokemon. I think Sceptile is really ugly. I'm not a big fan of Sceptile, but I love Mega Sceptile. Mega Sceptile's design is really cool. Grovyle is also a really sick looking Pokemon. I'm a big fan of Grovyle's design. Torchic is really cute and adorable. Combuskin is also like surprisingly cute and adorable, with like a bit of spice, a bit of fierceness to it. Blaziken, I think, is overhyped. I think it's just okay. You know what it is about Blaziken that I don't like? I don't like its feet. I think its feet are kind of ugly. Like the fact that it's got these like 3-pronged feet at the bottom instead of having like proper shoes or like proper feet looking things kind of throws me off. I'm not a big fan of it. I think it's also like its head shape is really weird, and maybe a bit smaller than I would like it to be. I think Mega Blaziken looks a little bit better though. Mudkip is fucking adorable. Like, how do you not love Mudkip? All of its evolutions are like fine, but like nothing compares to actual Mudkip. And of course, I have kind of a bias against Swampert because Swampert just kind of makes Generation 3 a cakewalk. You just shit on everything with Swampert. So I have kind of like a negative stigma towards Mudkip because it makes the game too easy. Gen 4, oh my god, how did I forget to talk about like all of the starters from Gen 4? I'm really slacking, aren't I? So we talked about Infernape. Infernape is busted. It's like one of the best Pokemon I think I've ever seen. I love its hidden ability, Iron Fists. Like Chimchar is fucking full of energy, and I love it. Monferno is actually kind of ugly. I'm actually not like the biggest fan of Monferno's design, but Infernape is based. I love Infernape's design. He looks powerful. He's fucking fast. He hits like a truck. Like, and he's a fire type. Like, fire type is one of my favorite types anyway. So I'm naturally biased. But yeah, Infernape slaps. I love Infernape. Piplup. So I think standard Piplup is like not all that interesting of a design. I think Primplup is also kind of an ugly design, but I like Empoleon a whole lot. The main problem with the Piplup line is just that it's slow. And like, I don't like slow water types, if I'm being honest with you. It helps that it's a steel type, so it's a pretty tanky Pokemon, all things considered. But like, you just don't get very many good special steel type moves. Like, you get Flash Cannon much later in the game, which is nice. But like, for the most part, you're just running shit like Metal Claw, and Piplup has like kind of dog shit's physical attack stat. So you don't really make good use out of Metal Claw, and like Steel isn't a very good offensive type in general. So like, you're mostly just running water type moves and using Steel type as like a defensive typing. And that's not really the way that I like to play Pokemon games. I really prefer to play aggressively. I prefer to play with Pokemon in types that are offensively threatening, right? So that's why I like Fire type. That's why I like Electric type, that kind of thing. And Fighting type and Psychic type. Turtwig. So Turtwig is adorable. Is it Grottle? Something like that is also adorable, right? I'm a big fan of that. And Torterra is fucking badass. I just don't like that it only has like one tree, so it's a very asymmetrical design, and that bugs the shit out of me. But I still love it, right? Like, I think the Turtwig line gets overshadowed by Infernape, because if you pick Turtwig, you have to fight Infernape, and Infernape kind of just shits on you in every way, shape, or form because you're so slow. Like, Turtwig is slow, so you know, you can't really make very good use of the Like, grass type is already not a crazy offensive type. Uh, ground is a great offensive type, but you want it on something that's fast so that you can hit things really hard, and you can't really do that on the Turtwig line because it's a relatively slow Pokemon. So kind of a hard sell for me, but I still love it. Right, I still think it's a really cute design and a really fun one. Definitely recommend if you haven't played through Platinum with a Turtwig or the Turtwig line, give it a shot because I think it makes the game kind of more interesting when you have to deal with the Infernape from Barry, and it's just cute. So, do that for yourself. We talked about Black and White. We talked about X and Y. Oh, I didn't talk about Sun and Moon's starters. Okay, so I actually really like all of the starters from Sun and Moon. This is like one of the only good traits from Sun and Moon. I just don't remember the fucking names. What is it? Poplio, Decidueye, and Litten are like the main. I know those aren't like the first start, like the first tier or the first evolutions names, but you get the point. Like those evolution lines. So one thing I want to talk about with Litten is I love Litten's design. I love Torracat's design. I do not like Incineroar's design. When I was playing, because I played through Sun and Moon blind, right? I did not look up what the evolution lines look like or anything like that. I wanted to play through the game completely blind and experience each of the evolutions as they occur, right? Kind of like I was playing through like Gen 1 or 2. And when I got to Torracat, I was like, oh, this is sick. This thing's going to turn into like a lion, like a fire lion Pokemon or something like that, or a fire leopard or something. Like, this is going to be badass. And then it turns into a fucking wrestler standing on 2 feet. And I'm just like, no, please, no. Why? Why did you do that? It was so good. Like, Torracat is such a cool looking Pokemon because it's this big, fucking thick, meaty leopard that has fire coming out of its chest and shit like that, right? And it looks intimidating. It's standing on all fours. It's got like, ugh. And then you could have easily done something similar to like Entei, right? Like a dark Entei type, or a dark version of Entei is what I was expecting. And instead we get this fucking wrestler. And it's like, where in this evolution line did you expect this thing to turn into a fucking wrestler? It's just beyond me. Fucking bizarre. Decidueye is awesome, right? Like, it's this owl fucking... I don't even know, what would you call this thing? This scout, right? It looks really sick. It's one of my favorite grass type designs of all time. And I think it's like, it's Ghost Grass, which is a unique typing too, or like a fun typing. Poplio's design, I mean, I'll take it or leave it. It's like a mermaid seal thing, seal otter thing. It's cool. It looks fine, right? It's water fairy. It's really strong. I used it in like my playthrough of, I think Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon is the one that I used it for. And it was fun, right? It was totally fine, totally passable, really powerful, cute. Just not one of my favorite water types, but it gets the job done. Let's see. Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield. We talked about Sword and Shield's starters. Scarlet and Violet. Again, how did I forget to talk about Scarlet and Violet starters? So, I went with... what the fuck is that thing called? Sorry, when you spend like 3 hours talking about Pokemon, some of this shit kind of loses presence in your mind. But the grass type starter, the cat, right? I am a big fan of this one. So I really loved the grass type starter's first design, right? I'm like, this thing is adorable. I fucking love this thing. And then it evolved and it started standing on 2 legs. And I was like, no, why do we keep doing this? Stop, please. And I know that that's like a common complaint people have for starter evolutions is, oh, they look too humanoid. Like, please stop with the humanoid designs. And I agree with that. Stop it. Like, It's a cute cat. Keep that concept in, like, further develop that concept, please. Um, but they didn't do that. So instead, you get this like Meows. What is it? Meowscarada is the final evolution's name, and like Meowscarada's evolution, like its design is fine, but it's like what is it even supposed to be? I have no idea. It's like a, what is it? A performer, right? Like a stage performer, because like masquerade or something like that. I don't know. Like interesting design. At least it incorporates more of like the cat aesthetic into its design, but I don't know. I would have preferred something that's more like four-legged cat monster. But honestly, this thing fucking slaps. This is a broken Pokemon that guarantees a critical hit using its signature move, which helps because it's a grass type, right? Um, and grass type isn't known for being like hyper offensive, really. So it's nice. It's a good move. It's a good Pokemon in general. I'm just a little miffed about it standing on two legs. The fire type Fuecoco. I actually don't. I don't like Fuecoco's design all that much. Like I think it's. Some people might think it's cute. I think it's cute ugly, right? Like it's an ugly Pokemon that's cute. You know, that's a contradiction. You know what I mean? Like it's so ugly that it's kind of cute. Um, and like its final evolution is like really intimidating. What is it, Skeledirge or something like that? Fire Ghost is cool. I just wish that its limbs were a little longer, right? Like it looks. This thing looks like I could run from it no problem, right? Um. Oh, its middle evolution is also like fuck no. Like I hate its middle evolution. I don't know what are they doing with its middle evolution. I don't get it. Why does it have a sombrero? I'm not. Maybe this is probably like a cultural thing that I don't understand, like a cultural reference that I'm missing, but I don't get it. So that's why I don't like it. Um, it's also just like not interesting. It's just Boy Coco with a hat. Like you could have tried so much harder if you were going for something like more culturally influenced. You could have done better. Uh, Quaxley, I think is the water type's name. The one with the fucking hat. I love this thing's base evolution. Right, like its first stage is so fucking cute with the hat. I love it. It's made out of water. It's a duck. Right, it's one of the best designed Pokemon I've ever seen, and they fucking ruin it with its evolution. This is one of those Pokemon that's like you keep this thing as a baby and you don't evolve it ever, because all of its evolutions, like it's all of the other two evolutions are just infinitely worse than this one, right? Like, and because like its final evolution is like this dancer, right? And like it's an interesting design. It's more duck inspired than it is like human inspired, but it's still like a human. It's still like a Pokemon mimicking a human thing, and I'm not the biggest fan of that. I want it to be more monster inspired instead of like, from like a conceptual standpoint. I don't really understand why a Pokemon would even mimic like an activity that humans do anyway. So it's just bizarre decision making for design choices, but also like what the fuck do I know, right? I don't work at Game Freak. But okay, with all of that, that's all of the starters that I'm aware of. Yes, right. We've talked about all of them up until this point. And that's the list. That's all the Pokemon games ranked from worst to best. So to wrap up, again, if you want to experience the franchise, start with Platinum, then maybe play either Heart Gold or Soul Silver or Fire Red and Leaf Green. Then when you've gotten your feet wet, when you've experienced like 2 or 3 Pokemon games, I would recommend Black 2 and White 2. And so on and so forth. But thank you for sticking with me throughout this entire long Yap session about Pokemon. And I hope to see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.